Party's on Truman versus Sally. Step forward, please.
42-year-old Robert Schumann insists 25-year-old Malipon Sally owes him for not paying rent, damaging his car, and a gambling debt. She says Robert became too possessive.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 358 on the calendar in the matter of Truman versus Sally. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Truman, according to your complaint, you met and became involved with the defendant. You rented her a room in your home.
I rented her a house.
And she didn't pay rent.
That's correct.
You then lent her a car, and she damaged the car, and she didn't pay to repair it.
That's correct.
And then you took her gambling with you and gave her money to gamble, and she didn't pay you back.
That's correct. She was already gambling.
But you went together,
Right.
because you did lend her the money, according to you, when you were both gambling together, right?
That's correct.
All right, so she was a renter who didn't pay rent. She borrowed your car, trashed it, didn't fix it. You took her gambling. She lost money. You gave her money for gambling. She never paid you back. When did you wake up and say, this is not a good thing?
About toward the, maybe about the middle of August. That was after she had already told me about maybe her 25th lie and the different excuses on how she was going to pay me back. And after hearing it over and over again, I got tired of it.
How long did she live in your house?
About 4 months.
And in the 4 months period that she lived there, how many times did she pay rent?
She didn't pay rent at all.
And how much was she supposed to pay in rent?
$450.
A month.
Yes.
So after the first month that she lived there, sir, why didn't you boot her out?
I kind of felt sorry for her because actually we kind of developed a friendship. And she had told me at the beginning of May that she couldn't pay the security deposit or the month of May because of the fact that she had her money lost.
She lost her money?
She said she lost the money at work or something. So I told her that.
Well, what about the second month?
As far as the second month is concerned, I began to know her a little bit more, and she began to make up more and more different stories on kind of problem that she was having. She was telling me at that time that basically is that her workplace was withholding all of her paychecks and things like that, not paying her at work.
What kind of work was she doing?
She was working as a waitress in Hollywood or something.
Go ahead.
So I told her that, you know, even on top of that, though, you should be able to pay, you know, your rent from your tip, because she was telling me that she was making at least $1,000 a week.
Okay, so there's month 2. Now, month 3, sir, she didn't pay anything.
She basically told me at that time that she had a large trust account up north.
Trust?
Right. And that she was going to go up north, and that she was going to go ahead and get the money and bring it back.
And that's when you lent her your car?
No, I lent her the car in May. On the
So
first
right
month.
away you lent her the car?
Yes.
And you lent her the car, and the car died according to your
Yes.
papers, and it had to be towed back to where you lived.
That's correct.
What was wrong with the car?
The transmission was completely damaged.
Well, is it her fault that the transmission went?
Basically, is that the transmission, the seal of the transmission broke, but that wasn't the cause of the damage. Is that she had continued to drive the car for several miles after that, on a bad transmission, basically, even though all the warning lights and everything else was flashing on the car. She just continued to drive it for a long period of time until it eventually just broke the whole drivetrain and smashed the front wheels, too.
And now let's talk about the gambling. How much money did you give her to gamble, and under what circumstances?
About $1,000 over a period of 4 months.
Why?
Basically, she was already involved in gambling. She was playing what's known as Asian games in the California card rooms. And I frequent card clubs also. And I just didn't feel that was a good game to play. It's a very high-risk game. As far as any kind of gambling, as far as I'm concerned, is risky.
Any kind of gambling is risky, especially when you don't have money to pay your rent.
Yeah, that's true. And
What do you do for a living?
I'm an entertainment consultant for the casinos.
So you're a businessman.
Yes.
Mr. Schumann, you're a businessman. Here's somebody who couldn't afford to pay you rent, she says. Where does she get money to
She
play?
seems to have money all the time.
Well, if she seemed to have money all the time, why didn't you say to her, I want my rent?
That's what I had told her before.
But you continued to go gambling with her.
She would go ahead and take the money and eventually just tell me that, okay, well, after I picked up some money from my work and I'm going to bring it home and I'll pay you. And then when I come back home, she would be off to the casino somewhere, and then she would tell me the money I was going to pay you, I had lost it playing cards.
So that was very bad judgment on her part, right?
Yes.
Then you gave her more money, $1,000 over 4 months. Why would you give her more money?
Because at that time, when I started to teach her how to play poker, because she was playing in the Asian games herself. So I taught her how to play poker, and she began to win. And she was almost winning every time she was going there. But instead of paying me the money and paying me back when she borrowed the money, she would take the money and give them to her friends.
All right, so Mr. Schumann, so you take her the first time and you show her how to play poker after she's lost money playing Asian games. So you teach her how to play poker and you see that she's winning. She's not giving you the money that she owes you from money that you had given her for gambling. She's not paying your rent. She's not paying for the repairs on the car. And you continue to give her money for gambling, according to you. Right?
That's correct. But over the period of 4 months' time, she had made at least 8 or 9, I don't know, maybe even 10 trips up north saying how she was going to bring the money back. So every time she would disappear for 3 or 4 days and say that she was going to sell her furniture, and her second she had another apartment, she was going to go ahead and get a security deposit back and bring back that security deposit. I find out later she never even had a second apartment. She told me she was going to go up north and then sell her car to her brother because her brother wanted her car. Find out later that she had already sold the car to her brother a long time ago.
You know what it sounds like to me, sir? You were hoping for something more than friendship. That's what it sounds like to me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What are you doing going gambling if you don't have money to pay rent? What are you laughing at? Try to keep it together.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Entertainment consultant Robert Schumann claims part-time waitress Mally Pond Sally owes him for gambling, rent, and a broken-down car.
All right, Miss Sally, let me hear your side of the story. Did you pay rent?
No,
Why?
because he didn't tell me to pay. First, he told me to move in. He's going to help me go through.
What?
Because, yeah, because he didn't tell me to pay. He told me to move in there in the house, and he wanted me to stay in his master bedroom, and he's going to stay downstairs where the other room is open. And then I didn't want to stay in his master bedroom, so I said I'd rather stay downstairs.
And you're telling me there was no agreement as far as rent? Is not an answer. Miss Sally, did you agree to pay him at some point rent of $450 a month?
No.
How much did you agree to pay him?
I said wait until I'm working, and I could afford to pay him rent. And he says okay. Because when I moved in there, I have about $900, and they stole the money.
Who stole the money?
There's other people that lives in there, rent a room from him. And I can't, I don't know.
Just a second. So you're working all this time that you're living there as a waitress.
I pay him some back. So when I have,
How much did you pay him back?
I don't remember. Sometimes I give him $100, $50 when I make my tips, and I give him some of the stuff back. And then when I didn't really play Asian, what he was saying, that game. I just go with my friend, but my friend's a gambler, so I never played. And then he teach me how to play Hold'em, because he said I could make a living playing Hold'em instead of working.
What are you doing going gambling if you don't have money to pay rent? According to you, you said to him, I'll pay you rent as soon as I get more money from my work.
No, I didn't say.
Shh. That's what you just said to me.
Okay.
You said there was not an agreement to give him $450 a month rent. But I told him I would pay him rent as soon as I started making money. That's what you just told me, right?
I didn't say that, but it's just, if I have the money, I would help him pay the rent, but he didn't
No,
offer
Miss
that.
Sally, that's what you just told me. What are you laughing at? Try to keep it together. So if you don't have the money to pay rent, where do you come off? Going to a gambling place.
I just go, my friend goes there. That's the only person I know in LA. I just moved from Sacramento, so she gamble. I just go with her, but then I didn't gamble.
You took money from him to gamble.
He's the one that banked me up. I said, you know, when I lost my tip money, $50, I said, I don't
Why
wanna
were
play
you
no
playing
more.
with your tip money? Here you go. You promised this man, according to you. Let's say I don't believe him that you said you were going to give him $450 a month. Let's say I believe you. I'm going to give you money, Mr. Schumann, as soon as I, start gathering up some money again because my money was stolen.
It was.
So you gather up $50, and instead of giving it to him, you went and gambled with it. Let's talk about the car.
Okay.
You borrowed his car.
I told him I was going to get a rent-a-car. My friend was going to give me a rent-a-car, but he said he loaned me the car to take it home. So I drove home. I don't know what happened. I made it in the middle of LA and Sacramento. The transmission just blew up 6 in the morning. The water just come out. I don't know, and I pulled over. And then I called the towing truck, and then I towed back here. I went home first with my mom and asked my mom get the money.
That's not important. Did you drive the car after you saw the lights on in the car?
No. I went, the water came out, just pulled over on the side, and I called a towing truck.
Did you ever tell him you would pay him for the car?
That time he didn't get mad or nothing, and I didn't say I was going to pay, because he said that time wasn't the money thing. He doesn't care about the money.
Did he ever make any advances towards you socially?
What does that question means?
Did he ever come on to you?
I know before I moved in there, I know he told me he said he's in love with me. But I told him that I just came up from a relationship because I came to Sacramento away from my ex-fiance, and I don't want to deal with nothing with it. I don't have no feeling for him or no, other guys.
When did you tell him that?
I told him that before I moved in the house. But
Did she tell you that, sir?
Yes, but I have never told her that I loved her or anything like that.
Yes, she did.
Well, what did you tell her? You told her that you liked her?
I thought she was a nice person.
No, I mean, did you say to her you would like to have a relationship with her, and she said, no, I'm
I
not?
never said anything like that. She said something like that.
What did she say?
She told me that she thought I was one of the nicest guys that she ever met, and that she was having a hard time with her estranged boyfriend in Sacramento. That's one of the reasons why she had to get away from him and to move down to here. And, just that she said not too often that she meets someone like me.
Did you think she liked
And
you?
so I felt that it was more coming from her than from me.
Did you like her?
I would say yes, but I never made any kind of advances toward her.
But you liked her.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All that kind of damage would never happen if someone had just stopped the car right there.
Maybe she was in a place where it wasn't good to stop, sir. If I'm in a car and a car's lights are going off and I'm on a parkway and it's not convenient to stop because there's nothing else around there, I'll drive it until it dies.
Closed captioning, sponsored in part by Real Cases, Real People, Judge Judy. Robert Schumann wants Malipon Sally to pay him rent, car repairs, and a gambling debt. Sally says he became too possessive.
Okay, ready to rule.
Ready to rule.
There are 3 things you're suing for, sir. You're suing for rent, you're suing for your car, and you're suing for the money that you loaned her to gamble.
Could I say one thing, Your Honor?
Sure.
I have a rental agreement here that was signed by her back in April. I have a promissory note that she had already made out.
When did she sign this?
But beginning of September, after I filed a suit against her because I told her I was going to garnish her wages, I would do whatever it takes me to
Did
get my
you
money
sign
back.
this promissory note?
What's a promissory note?
You don't know what this is?
He gave me some papers. I just signed it. I don't know what that was for.
When did he give it to you?
Last week.
Tell me the
have a
circumstances
witness.
surrounding which you gave her this paper, sir, and when you gave it to her.
I gave it to her about beginning of September.
Where did you give it to her? In your house?
I gave it to her at the casino after I had already thrown her out. I threw her out toward the end of August.
He didn't
Then
throw
I
me.
informed her at the time that I was going to sue her to get my money back.
Yes.
And then that's when she thought that I was going to tell her family that she was gambling all her money away down here in Southern California. So she went ahead and signed that promissory note.
Well, what would make her think that you were going to tell her family that she was gambling all of her money away?
Because she knew I was very upset about it. She knew that at that time I was being also seen by a doctor at the same time.
What kind of
Because I was almost
doctor?
having a nervous breakdown over this.
You having a nervous breakdown over what?
Over all of this.
Over what, sir?
All the money that she owed me.
She doesn't owe you that much money, sir. Let me tell you something. If you
I
lend
don't have a lot of money.
Mr. Schumann, listen to me carefully, sir. You lend somebody your car, and if the transmission goes on the car, that's not necessarily their fault. Transmission can go on a car when anybody drives a car. It could have been you behind the wheel of the car or anybody else. As far as the money that you gave her when she was gambling, you got to chalk that up to your stupidity, because somebody who doesn't pay you rent, who doesn't pay you, according to you, what you think is owed for repairing your car, you don't go and give them money to gamble, because that's just dumb. I do believe, however, based upon what, not only what you told me, but what she pretty much tells me, is that she had an agreement to pay you rent. You say that there was an agreement to pay you rent of $450 a month. She says, when she's not backtracking and covering herself, well, I told him that I would pay him when I had money from my work, but clearly she had money from her work because she was gambling, and if she was gambling, she had extra money because she wasn't paying rent, which she should have been paying. Does that make sense to you, Bird?
Clear. Clear. Crystal clear.
If I have I have a receipt here from the mechanic that set the damages to that car. It said all that kind of damage would never happen if someone had just stopped the car right there and not drive it 5, 6, 7, 8 miles.
Maybe she was in a place where it wasn't good to stop, sir. If I'm in a car and a car's lights are going off and I'm on a parkway and it's not convenient to stop because there's nothing else around there, I'll drive it until it dies. It's not her fault that the transmission went.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Call 1-888-800-JUDY.
Miss Sally, you lived there 4 months?
Yes.
You paid no rent. Everybody pays rent. You owe him $1,800 in rent. Do you understand? How
Yes.
much did you pay him?
I used to pay him sometimes $100, $200, $300.
Show me proof.
He's the one that has to prove. I
Did
gave
she
him the
pay you
money.
any money,
She
sir?
didn't pay me anything.
Of course she didn't. You want to know why she didn't? Because she lies. Miss Sally, you're not always going to be able to get away with your good looks. You're not always going to be able to get away with getting over on people. And I think you've been doing that probably a long time. Now, he is clearly not very socially adept, if you know what that means. Not too swift when it comes to the social stuff. He couldn't figure out that after 2 months he was being taken. Waited 4 months to figure out that he was being taken, and you finally moved out. You moved out owing him money for rent. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the rent only in the amount of $1,800. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Back door to your right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She made so many excuses. Every time I tried to ask her to pay me back, 10, 15 times, she'll come up with a different excuse and not follow through.
I think he likes me. I cannot fall in love with someone, you know what I mean? Not because of the money.
I don't know, I guess stupid.
He's on Span versus Wilson. Step forward, please.
Janet Spahn, a 35-year-old housewife from Colorado, is suing her former babysitter, 18-year-old Eric Wilson. 2 years ago, Eric was arrested for stealing money from Janet's home. Now, Janet alleges more money is missing and believes Eric is to blame.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 163 on the calendar in the matter of Span versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right, let me understand this case. Miss Spahn, this young man babysat for you, for your children,
Yes.
a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And at that time, he wasn't doing so well. You didn't know it at the time,
No, I did not.
but you had a drug problem,
Yes, I did.
and you had been involved in a series of criminal activity
That
that
is
you're not
correct.
proud of now, I understand.
That is correct.
You're his mother.
Yes, I am.
While he was babysitting for you, he stole some money,
Yes, he did.
and he was arrested and prosecuted.
Correct.
What was your sentence?
I got theft charges. I was ordered to pay restitution in the amount that she had requested.
How much was that?
It was $900, I believe, and it ended up being $1,200 after all of the fees and everything, all the victim assistance, all of that. And I paid that in full, and I was ordered to go on to probation. I finished all my probation stuff. I did my community service, paid all my restitution.
What
and,
kind of community service did you have to do?
weekend work crew. I'd have to go up into the mountains and dig trails and stuff, and kind of.
And according to your complaint, Ms. Spahn, you found out that there was more money taken that was originally either reported or somehow the paperwork, the police paperwork,
Yes.
was lost.
It was not in the actual record, the original record, this is the original report, and this is the second report, which we did file within the statute of limitations, that showed the additional $900 was missing. Now, it was $1,100 originally, which we were paid the restitution after, the balance was paid, and this is the additional $900 that was missing, which is what I am here for.
Your neighbors.
Yes.
Ms. Spahn, if I find out that what this young man says in his answer is true, this is a sympathetic case on both sides. Because what this young man says, and his mother seems to confirm, is that in the last 2 years he has, in fact, turned himself around. Drug-free?
To a point, yes.
What do you mean to a point?
I've been working on it. I have been clean for about a month now.
What kind of drugs were you using?
Marijuana and alcohol.
You can't just work on that, sir. You
Yeah.
have to, after 2 years.
I know
Stop.
it does take time, and it's kind of hard. It's
Well-
a difficult thing to do, and with the right people around me and the right kind of stuff in my head and not hanging around the bad crowd, I think I can do it.
Did you get your GED?
Yes, I did.
That says that you did here and that you scored rather well.
Yes, I did.
Have you been arrested in the last 2 years?
No.
Since this incident? You seem to say, the
Yes, he
smile
was.
on your face suggests to me that you know he's been arrested
Yes,
since.
he was. The officers actually called me at home.
When?
3 months later, my house was broken into. We assumed it was him, and the police called me to verify that he was arrested 2 days later. And that's when he went to the detention center up at Lookout Mountain.
I never went to Lookout Mountain. I did go to a detention center for a shoplifting charge, Mount View Detention Center.
Let's talk about the last year.
Okay.
Have you been arrested in the last year?
No.
You had to hesitate for a minute.
Well, I wasn't quite sure. I haven't been arrested. I haven't gone to jail or anything, no.
Well, I didn't ask you whether
I
you went
did
to
get a
jail. I asked you
ticket.
whether you were
I
arrested.
did get a ticket,
What kind of ticket?
underage drinking.
Miss Spahn, Why is it, first, that that second amount of money, that $900, was not originally reported?
That was up to the sheriff that made the report out, and it explains it all here in this report.
Let me take a look at it.
Showing that the original $900 that was originally stolen was never made it onto this report. And that states it there.
How old are your children?
Almost 7, and the other one is 4.5.
So they were 2 and 5 when he babysat for you.
Actually, yes, around there.
Did he take good care of them?
Do I? Of course.
Did he take good care of
them? No.
But you used him as a babysitter frequently.
4 times.
And you were dissatisfied the first, second, and third time?
The third time. That's when we had found out that money started disappearing out of the house. I came home, my son had a bloody nose, he was in bed, he had blood all over his face and everything, and he had just left him. Obviously, he was going through my house at the time, rummaging through everything that I own.
You want to tell me about taking the money from her house?
Well, I was with my cousin, which was unmentioned to this point so far. He lived in Tennessee at the time, and I actually was not taking part in the theft of the money.
What do you mean you weren't? Listen to me, Mr. Wilson, I want to know. It's very important that when you answer questions that I pose to you, that you tell me the truth.
Right, I understand.
You understand that?
Yes.
I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear nonsense. I don't want to hear that you didn't take part in it. If your cousin was with you and you saw him take the money, and the reason he had access to her house is because you were there, then you're responsible. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is that the kind of excuse you were going to make to me?
No, not exactly.
Well, then I'll hear your excuse.
It's okay. I guess I'll just say I took it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I drive by their house.
Kids and your dogs up
I drive by
our
their house, and their little kids flip me off.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Janet Spahn claims her former babysitter, Eric Wilson, stole a large amount of cash from her house and wants him to fess up and pay her back.
Well, I'm being very serious with you. If your cousin was with you from Tennessee, which is what you say here, and that you took the rap for him.
I did.
But your cousin had access to her home through you.
Yes, she agreed. She agreed that my cousin could be with me when we were babysitting. She did agree to it. And when I got back the next day and when I found out the next morning that money was missing, I asked him, and we had gone shopping that night, and he had said he had some money left over. Let's go have a good time, you know. I didn't know it was stolen from her house.
But it had been stolen over a period of several days, not just one day. How many days was your cousin at the house with you?
I believe he did go twice with me.
Mm-hmm. You paid the restitution yourself. Did you ever try to get any money from your cousin?
No.
Why not?
Well, when my grandfather had died, my aunt and uncle, we were out playing basketball and stuff, and my uncle actually kind of assaulted me, so we haven't spoken to them since.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But you asked that your cousin could accompany you in this babysitting job, and she gave permission.
Yes.
So your cousin did have access to her home through you.
Correct.
All right. Now, she says that there's an additional $900. Why did you keep so much cash in the house?
We had just sold a 1926 Model T in California here, and we had brought the cash home, and we had not deposited into the bank yet because we were having a carpenter come in to redo our basement. So he wanted to be paid cash, and it had only been 1 week that we had had the cash in the house.
Was the cash kept all in one place?
Yes, it was. It was in a sock rolled up in a locked bedroom behind a bed.
So how come you didn't know at one time how much was missing?
We knew that some money was disappearing. My husband was accusing me, and I didn't know where the money was at the time.
What do you mean, missing from the sock?
Yes, a little bit at a time. And then we put 2 and 2 together, and we had set up some tape in the bedroom door. So when the door had been opened and unlocked, that the tape would be stuck at the top of the door, which it was. He had entered the bedroom, and the sock was on the side of the bed with half the cash hanging out. That was the last night. That was when there was $1,100 taken out that was one day. He took $1,100 out.
How much money in total was in the sock?
$4,000 total.
And how much was
$2,000 ended up missing. $1,100 was retrieved through court, And through the money that he had left, he had used credit cards out of my purse and everything else.
Did you
trying
do
to
that?
buy-
No.
Who did?
I have no.
I have a
no
document right here.
recollection of that.
Let me see what you
that brought
have.
up at court?
Yeah.
It was done on the same day that he had stolen the $1,100. It was been notarized and said that that somebody had tried to purchase video equipment, which is what he bought with our money when they retrieved it.
Did you find your credit card?
Oh, yes, I did. The credit card had not been activated yet. So that's why they notified us. So all these things happen within like a week.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to tell me why you don't think that you should be responsible for this additional $900, which I believe was missing.
Well, when she did originally say it, it did change. The amount of what was missing changed 3 different times. We told the judge this at the original trial or original hearing. I pled guilty to the charge. I paid my restitution in full. I paid what the judge ordered me to pay. I paid what she asked the judge to pay, the requested amount. I paid the requested amount. I got off of probation. I paid all my restitution. I filled my debt to society. I'm trying to get back on the straight and narrow, working hard.
Okay. Mr. Wilson, this report suggests that there was some sort of a snafu in the police paperwork. That the money was reported missing, but somehow missed it when it was ultimately presented to the court. So we're faced with a situation where this lady is going to be out $900, which seems to be unfair. And on the other hand, you seem to suggest that you're trying to get your life back in order. And the fact that you've paid your debt to society, which is what you say, doesn't necessarily mean you've paid your entire debt to this lady, because she's still out an additional $900.
I never saw that $900.
Well, whether you saw it or not, if somebody took the money, it wasn't her 2-year-old, it wasn't her 4-year-old, you were involved with drugs and alcohol at the time. I don't know what your cousin was involved with, drugs and alcohol, or maybe he's just a thief. But either you or he, through you, because that's how he got access to her home,
Correct.
took her property. Somebody has to pay for that.
Correct.
There is something else in this complaint that, however, that bothers me, Ms. Spahn.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She threatens to kill us and tells us she will not leave us alone until we move.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Eric Wilson says after he was arrested for stealing from his neighbor, Janet Spahn, he paid the money back to her. Now Eric says Janet won't stop harassing him and his family.
What bothers me is that you folks are neighbors, and there's a suggestion in the answer that there's a lot of hostility that's still going on now from your end. Your husband, you're angry, and you do things to
Certainly.
harass them. You have a boy and a girl?
No, I don't. I have 2 sons.
Miss Spahn, I assume that you let this young man babysit for you because you know his family, you know his mother. Did she always?
No, I did not.
Well,
We had just moved here. We just moved to Colorado at the time, and I had asked his mother, assuming that she would, think that, if her son had good intentions to watch my children, if he did not, that she would not let him babysit. But she did, and she knew what his intentions were.
Well, I don't think
that was fault on my part.
No, I
Miss
did
Spahn,
not.
Miss Spahn, I don't think that this lady knew what her son's intentions were.
I came over to their house and introduced myself, and they never even met my mother before I started babysitting.
Do you have other children?
Yes, ma'am.
How many other children do you have?
I have 1 daughter,
How old is she?
15.
She okay?
She's great.
She have any trouble with drugs, alcohol, school?
No, I think her brother's been a good example of a bad example, and she's everything against it because of that, whether that's good or bad. But she's very Christian and she's very straight.
Does your husband live in the house with you?
Oh, yes.
Do you work?
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of work do you do?
I run a bank.
And what about your husband?
He works for the school district.
So, and you have a long work history? You've been
Yes.
working for a long time? How many years at the same job?
Well, I got promoted, so I went to a different position, but I've been in banking for 11 years.
And your husband, how long has he been working for the school system?
13 after he got out of college. He went right there, and he's been there for 13 years.
Let me tell you why I'm asking these questions, Miss Spahn, so you'll understand. I've been around the family courts for a quarter of a century. And what strikes me as sad, has always struck me as being sad, you can expect a child to go off, get involved in drugs, alcohol, criminal activity, if they come from a family that is dysfunctional. But what I've seen more and more of is families that appear to be perfectly functional families have a child that just
Goes bad.
And you hope that that turns around. And you never know when that's going to happen. So what I'm suggesting to you is you have 2 young boys. As good a parent as you are, as good an example as you set for your children, as law-abiding as you are, work history for over a decade, right out of school, got a job, and working in the same job, that's this lady and her husband. I'm sure they try to set a good example for this young man, and they don't know what happened.
Something went wrong.
It happens.
I know.
You have to feel sorry for that. Because, but for the grace of God, it could be you.
Or my kids.
Or your kids.
That's right.
So while there's no question that I believe that this young man is responsible for paying you, for making you whole, I think it's a tragic mistake for you and your husband to continue what I will refer to as a minor vendetta against the family. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So this is a neighbor. This lady did not hope for the kind of problem that she's having with this boy. And I have a sense, from looking at her face, that it ain't over yet.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You better straighten yourself out. Kids make mistakes when they're young, and they say, well, I have a whole lifetime to correct them. How old are you now, 17?
18.
18.
I just turned 18, and I was going to get my record sealed.
Well, you're not going to get your record sealed, sir, if you just got a ticket for underage drinking. That doesn't suggest to me a year ago or whatever, and Mr. Wilson, listen to me. You just told me 2 minutes ago that you've been clean for about a month. That isn't exactly a lifetime.
Right.
The mistakes you make when you're 15, 16, 17, and 18, sometimes you can't correct them because they create a lifelong habit. So you have choices that you have to make. And if you don't make responsible choices starting right now, sir, at age 18, you're going to suffer your whole life, and your mother's going to suffer her whole life, and your father's going to suffer his whole life. They ever do anything bad to you?
No.
Are they good parents?
Very good.
It's your responsibility now at age 18 to see to it that they have pleasure from you, not grief.
Right.
So you better start trying harder, much harder. All right, judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Here you are, ma'am.
Thank you.
And on the next Judge Judy.
See, she threatens to kill us and tells us she will not leave us alone until we move. And I just can't keep going like this. She put a sign up on her tree, which I could take pictures of, and told me that she will shoot my son if she comes in his
Yes,
way. Don't you dare laugh at me because I have 3 boys.
They called my father and told him that
So
we have
she
a
laughs
security
about this.
system
She has
and a
her
gun
little kids
comes near
flip
us.
them off.
They come near us again,
That's
we're
great
gonna blow
treatment
them
for
away.
a 4-year-old.
I drive by their house and their little kids flip me off.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
She's not out there because she's in the house
so.
getting high with her husband. She would not know. Enough is enough. It's settled. She has everything. All we want to do is be left alone. You know,
Which
that's all
will
we want
never
to do.
happen until we move.
All parties on Osborne versus Holman Chesmar. Step forward.
26-year-old Kevin Osborne is suing the mother of his child, Kelly Holman, for running out with their daughter and leaving their apartment bare.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Judges number 74 on the calendar in the matter of Osborne versus Holman Chesmar. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
You're Mr. Chesmar?
Yes.
Why don't you have a seat for a moment, sir, even though you're a co-defendant in this case.
Right.
My reading of these papers suggests that you're really not a party in interest to this. Mr. Osborne, I read your complaint, sir. You and the defendant were engaged for about 2.5 years. Is that correct?
Yes.
And during that engagement period, you had a child.
Yes, ma'am.
Sort of not the way things are supposed to happen, you know.
She'd asked me to marry her.
No.
She didn't make the baby herself, right?
But she wanted the
Order.
she wanted the child. I did not at the time. Because I didn't know about our relationship and trusting her.
Mr. Osborne.
Yes,
Shh.
ma'am.
Engaged for 2.5 years, had a child. According to you, you were in jail for something. You'll tell me what in a minute. She moved out. When she moved out, she took $1,500 worth of your personal property.
And my child.
And your child.
No.
So, what were you in jail for?
I had a warrant for $100 owed to Burbank Court. And I had gotten in a fight with a friend over buying a car. We were wrestling in the driveway. The neighbors had called the police. They asked me if I had any warrants. I told them yes. And they took me in on that, and that only.
Why didn't you take care of these warrants?
Because we had moved in together and got a one-bedroom, and it was the expense of the child and all that. I couldn't afford it at all.
What
I
were
was
the
trying to make a
warrants?
life for us
What?
and
Shh,
pay
stop it.
utilities.
You're making me cry. What were the warrants for, sir? Warrants for parking tickets, driving while under the influence,
No,
speeding.
driving on a suspended license. I had done the time for it, but I owed court assessment, $100.
And how long were you in jail?
10 days.
And what happened while you were in jail?
In that time, she had taken my stuff, her stuff, and my child, and left the state.
Ms. Holdman, first, why don't you tell me why you left while he was in jail?
Well, first of all, we had a 3-day notice because Mr. Osborne did not get a job, and I could not pay rent and bills on my own.
Were you working?
No, I am disabled.
What's the nature of your disability?
Epilepsy.
So you received a disability check for yourself and the child?
No, at the time I was not receiving disability yet. I was on AFDC.
Okay. AFDC was paying the rent, so why did you get a notice to leave?
Because I could not afford the full amount
We were
of rent.
behind.
And I could not afford the full amount of rent, and I could not afford all the bills. Mr. Osborne had run up phone bills that I have, and he did not give any part of his to help pay for bills or rent.
So you decided to leave. There had to be more than that.
No, ma'am. We got the pay or quit before he went to jail, and he knew that we had to move.
Is that the pay or quit notice?
Yes, I
May
have
I
two
see
of
it,
them.
please?
They only
Okay.
asked for $50 to continue the rent. They made a deal with us.
You decided to move out. I have a feeling that there was more to the reason that you moved out and moved far away than just this pay and quit notice. But you left. Now, the question is, did you take any of his property with you?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Now, he's suing for $1,500. What property do you say she took?
She took dishes, clothes,
Just a
her
minute.
king-size bed that she had loaned us.
Just a second. Hold on. Let's go slowly, Mr. Osborne. Let's start with the bed.
Right.
The bed wasn't yours.
No.
Good. So let's forget
But
the
Lorraine
bed.
wants it back.
Just a
It
second.
was a
That's
loan.
her problem. I'm talking about you. She's not a co-plaintiff. You. What stuff did she take of yours?
She took ultrasound photos of the child and everything I had of the child.
Not everything. I want to hear, sir, what she took. Ultrasound photos of the child.
Yes, ma'am.
What else?
She took all my clothes.
Clothes. You say she took your clothes?
Yes.
What else did she take?
There was a fish tank, equipment, a little miniature pool table that I had for Brandy.
What else?
She had taken all my dishes.
Dishes.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of dishes, sir? Limoges?
Plates, cups,
What?
glasses,
What else? That's not...
everything in the apartment. Everything in mine that I had. that
Mr.
meant something-
Osborne,
Yes, ma'am.
this is not why you're here, sir.
No, I'm here because of Brandy.
No, this is not why you're here, because this is a lot of baloney.
It is. And I don't care about the material things.
Because you're suing her for $1,500, but so far, you haven't given me $15 worth of stuff.
I have all kinds of things that went of value. I had 4 suits in there that were $600 each. I had all my clothes that adds
Are
up.
you telling me you spent $600 a piece on 4 suits? You
Yes,
must have some good job.
And if you,
And
yes,
why
I
would
did.
have any use for your suits anyways?
Listen
why
to
would
me.
I take
I don't know
Sir,
why.
Mr. Osborne, you're not here because of this
I'm
property,
here because of
sir.
Brandy. I could care less about my stuff, material things.
Well, what do you
if
want?
I win, I'm going to use that to get visitation. She will not let me see my child, and she says, take me
I
to
tried to
court.
let you see your
Shh,
kid.
just a second. So she says in her answer to your complaint that this is all about getting some money so that you can hire a lawyer, so that you can sue her in whatever the domestic relations or family court is in
Visitation,
your
that's
jurisdiction.
all.
Is that why you're here, sir?
Yes,
to get
ma'am,
money
it is.
so that you
Yes,
can hire a lawyer?
Yes, I was hoping to see my child today, and
That's-
she not.
That's why you're here?
Yes.
To get money for a lawyer?
Yes.
This is not a proper forum for you, sir, to abuse the system, to come to court for that
No,
reason.
I also I need some clothes, something to wear.
Did you take any of his clothes?
No, Your Honor, I did
Now,
not.
you're a co-defendant. Stand up, sir. You're suing him because why?
He was a party of taking my stuff. He helped her move out.
How do you know
He's
that?
a witness of all of.
How do you, just a second, how do you know that?
She had told me, and
Who
there was
told you?
another.
Who told you?
Who told me? John Brown, another friend of Lorraine's, who was told her Lorraine that he had helped her
Can't
move
hear all
out.
that. I mean, it's a court, sir. Did you help her move when she left?
The only thing I moved out of there, I didn't move anything personally, ma'am. I had just had back surgery, so I wasn't lifting or doing any of that. They had brought out a dresser, the king-size bed, 2 dressers, and that was it. That's all I hauled.
You didn't haul that yourself.
No, ma'am.
What about her clothes? What about her stuff?
I didn't haul any of that.
Do I look like I need help? What does that have to do with you, her clothes?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Kelly and I were.
When I
you
get to that
shut your
house,
mouth.
go ahead, hit me, and I'll put a lawsuit against you.
Yeah, I'll bet you will.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 26-year-old Kevin Osborne is suing the mother of his child, Kelly Holdman, for running out with their daughter and leaving their apartment bare.
You had somebody, according to these papers that I have, come in and take out your things.
A
You had
friend, the most expensive stuff. My
You had a
tools.
friend come in and take out
Right, I
some
don't-
things.
Your Honor, I don't know who took my stuff.
Mr.
I don't know if it was
Osborne,
my friend.
Did
if
you
it was
just say to me that you had your friend come in and take out the most expensive things, your tools?
Yes, because that's what I did for a living.
Well, then it's not logical, Mr. Osborne, for the defendant to have taken suits which she can hardly use and left the most expensive thing
She does it to-
with the tools. I mean, if she was going to take something to sell them, certainly it would have been far smarter for her to take the tools, which she probably could have sold.
She plays games, and she takes it just to
I
when I get
see.
out of jail, so I have nothing.
So
she wants
far,
to ruin
Mr.
me.
Osborne, the one who's playing a game is you, who's playing a game with a court.
No, ma'am. No,
with
ma'am.
a court, because you're not here because of the things she allegedly took from your apartment.
Yes, I am.
Your problem, the two of you, is that you made a baby, and you had no right to make a baby until you had made a life together. That's what you did. That's a
why
mistake.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
That's a
That's
mistake.
why I wanted to wait to have
I
a
want to
child.
tell you something. I would run away from you too, sir. You don't know how to be quiet. I mean, there's something very controlling about your manner. What I'm telling you is you made a baby, you had no business making a baby, but now baby has 2 parents. So I assume that eventually a judge is going to hear this case. I assume you've been legally declared the father of this child, sir, is that right?
No, not legally, but it's in the birth certificate.
That's not legally. Well, if you... What?
That's all I
Another
have.
reason
I don't
why
have the
left
money to
him-
do a DNA
Another
test.
reason why I left him also is because he's mentally and physically abusive, and I have proof of that. I have permanent scars on my body that I've never asked him for a penny. He's lived off of me all his life since we got
I want to pay
together.
child support. She won't even let me pay child support.
Then that was very bad judgment on your part.
Yes, it was. And
Especially if you have a disability. That's very bad judgment on your part to live
Yes,
with
ma'am.
somebody who is abusive. Clearly, this was not a relationship that was destined to go on for 25 years. Unfortunately, you made this child, and the child has two parents. All I want to know, sir, is you don't need $1,500, which is what you're suing for, to go into court and file a petition asking legally to be declared the father of this child. Once you're legally declared to be the father of this child, along with that comes certain rights. One of the rights is to have a regular time to see your daughter. Regular. That's what's supposed to happen. It's not supposed to be a controlling situation so that you call whenever you want to see the child.
I realize
because
that,
clearly that's not going to work here. So you're going to have somebody else set up a schedule for you. But you have to go into court to do that. Are you still receiving AFDC?
Yes, ma'am, just for the child, and I'm receiving disability for myself.
Well, if she's receiving AFDC
Your
for
Honor?
the child.
Your Honor, when she was living with me, in all the places that she was living, she was getting AFDC and welfare and saying that she was living at their house. That's perjury. That is lying to the social service who I'm talking to now on fraud, welfare fraud.
I don't think so.
Notified welfare when she moved.
Let me tell you something.
She worked with my mother. I moved her in when I first met her to take care of nurse and take care of my mom and maid. And she did not claim that she was living there earning money.
Yes,
Lorraine
I
is a
told the
Lorraine is a
welfare
witness.
office.
Is all that Kelly, her granddaughter, has done to me. I'm living with Lorraine now. We were supposed
First
to get
of all,
married.
she's not my legal grandmother.
No, but she took custody of Kelly when she was 12 years old.
No, she did not. I ran away to her when I was 12.
Listen, I'm really not interested in going back to the flood, sir. What I'm telling you is, and I don't mean to be hard on you. I really don't mean to be hard on you. But this is the mother of your child. You're not supposed to put her in jeopardy. By what you just said to me now, you have placed her in jeopardy. Why would you want to do that?
Because she is not she's not a fit mother, that's why.
And like you're a fit father.
I have witnesses that she was
listen,
at a bar drunk, staggering, and she's supposed to be a mother of my child.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Did I ever hit you?
Yeah, what the hell is this?
Oh, no.
What is this?
You were drunk.
Yeah, I was
I
drunk.
pushed you. Did I hit you?
I was
No.
drunk. Yeah.
And later today,
Do you really believe in this position that you've taken for me?
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and let me tell you where you're all wet.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
I would hope that whatever judge hears your case and hears your petition for paternity and custody or visitation, whatever you will be seeking, does a full forensic examination, that is a full psychiatric and psychological evaluation of both of you. And I would assume that once those forensics are done, if they are done by a qualified person, the judge will have all the information that he or she needs to make an appropriate order for custody or visitation. My case here is a very simple one. You have not established to my satisfaction that she took anything from this apartment that belonged to you, and I am dismissing your lawsuit. With the proviso, sir, that if you want visitation, and not just to be tootin', you go into court yourself. You don't need a lawyer. You petition the court to be legally declared the father of this child. They will immediately make an order of support so that I, the taxpayer, don't have to support your child, which I am doing now.
She won't let me pay child
just
support.
a second.
She wants
I
to
don't want
keep
you.
collecting
Just a second.
AFDC and get my child away from me.
Listen to me. Judge, listen to me, Judge. Full forensic examinations before you make any order. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please. Take your time.
She keeps their marriage going, and she's told me some of the things that she does with them.
He's jealous.
He's jealous of the relationship
Maybe because
that we
he has
have.
to sit in his bedroom with his mags.
Parties on Young versus Cornelius. Step forward, please.
Financial controller Lucinda Young says she loaned Aaron Cornelius money and even adjusted his tax deductions because she felt sorry for him, but he won't pay her back.
Ms. Young, I gather that you work in the accounting department where the defendant works as an employee. Is that correct?
I'm the controller.
According to your complaints, he came to you and asked to borrow $168. That was a personal loan. You gave him $168. He hadn't paid you back.
Right.
Is that it?
That's it.
You say it has nothing to do with a personal loan.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Well, let's hear what your defense is.
My defense is that she had told me that the government was taking too much money away from me on each paycheck, that she can correct that by blocking my taxes for periods of time.
What do you mean blocking your taxes?
Basically where the money comes to me now instead of at the end of the year.
So she was going to add more deductions for you. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you say in your answer to this claim that as a result of that, it cost you some money.
That's correct.
How much money did it cost you?
Approximately almost $500 at the end of the year that I ended up owing due to this block.
It's not a block. It's just changing the number of deductions.
Changing the number of deductions, yes.
Well, let me ask you, sir, how did you come to ask her, how did she come to give you this $168? I want you to tell me exactly what happened. She's in her office.
Right. I had approached her and told her that due to what we have did to my paycheck, that it had ended up making me owe at the end of the year, and you know, it was hurting me financially, and she had offered to help. And she said she had wrote me out a check for $168, and I said thank you. And I didn't assume that it was a loan due to the fact that it was her negligence that brought me to this point anyway.
Now you want to tell me your version of how this came about?
Well, Aaron came into my office and said, I've been making payments all along to the IRS. And this was in October of '96, so obviously his tax return, I assume, was filed on time in April. He said, I owe $168, or they're going to garnish me. Well, we don't like garnishments where I work because they cause a little extra work for all of us. And, you know, I've known Aaron for as long as he's worked at the company. And I said, Aaron, how much is it? How much do you need to not be garnished? He said, $168. I said, okay, I'll write you a check. Pay me back when you can. Here's $168. The garnishment came through next week, the following week. I said, what'd you do with the money? But obviously that's history now. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay, but you said to him, here's the $168, pay me back when you can.
He offered to sign a note. In fact, that was the first thing he said before I even offered to give him the money. He said, I'm happy to sign a note, whatever it takes, but I need this money now. I said, you don't need to sign a note. I know you. You've been working here a while. I won't do it again, but...
Now, Mr. Cornelius, do you really believe in your position, sir?
Excuse me?
Do you really believe in this position that you've taken before me?
Absolutely, Your Honor.
Well, then let me tell you where you're all wet.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
She explained to you, if I believe what you say, that if you took, let's say, 4 deductions, you would get more in your salary each week, and it would probably be a wash with regard to taxes. You wouldn't have to pay any taxes, and you would end up with more dollars in your hand, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So what happened was, you still got more dollars. She didn't get any gain out of this, you did. If she put more deductions, that means you got more money in your paycheck each week. Why should she have to pay for that? She didn't write a company check, she wrote her own personal check. You still got the money.
Okay.
Now, did you go to her office and say, if I don't send them $168, they're going to garnish my salary?
That's correct.
And did she say to you, I'll give you the $168 because we don't like that to happen, you'll give it back to me when you can?
She had said to assist me, yes.
Hmm?
She did say she would assist me, yes.
You left out the last part, Mr.
That's
Cornelius.
correct, because I don't recall that part.
Well, she recalls it, and it sounds very logical to
Well,
me.
I have it in an email here that he intended to pay me back.
Because you kept hounding me about it, and I was going to try to
just a
square it away.
second. Did you put it in a letter to her that you were going to pay her back?
Yeah, because she kept
Good.
hounding me about it.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $168. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out the back door to your right.
On the next Judge Judy.
I told him $28 a paycheck, 6 paychecks. He won't owe me any more money. You know, I honestly think that if Aaron had it in his pocket and it was spare money he didn't know what to do with, I think he would have given it back to me. But I don't think he has any spare money. I don't think he's had any spare money for a while.
Party's on Sauter versus Visner. Step forward, please.
35-year-old Mary Sauter met 29-year-old Brian Visner on a softball team. She loaned him money, and when they split, she says he kept using her credit cards.
Order. All rise. It's number 48 on the calendar, Judge, in the matter of Sauter versus Visner. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Ms. Sauter, according to your papers, you met the defendant in April of
Correct.
1995.
95.
Began dating in May of the same year.
Correct.
And by the middle or the end of the summer, you had loaned him about $1,500.
Thereabouts. Probably more than that, but that's what I'm alleging at this point.
Why?
Well, I met Brian, and we really had a lot of mutual interest together in regards to softball and such. And
You met him at a softball game, according to your papers.
yeah, we played co-rec softball together. Co-rec, men, women. Okay, half-half. All right. And during Memorial Weekend, in fact, we even went down to Chicago for the weekend and had a great time. Came back, and Brian really, truly, I knew was going through a lot of hard times. Had gone through several jobs, different changes in jobs. Brian has 2 children, great boys, and he was in arrears in regards to child support and is trying to get his feet back on the ground. And I truly believed at that point he was trying hard to get his feet back on the ground in regards to a new job.
But why did you give him money?
Because with his initiative, and I saw his motivation in regards to his job, that possibly, I mean, he promised to pay it back.
What kind of work were you doing?
I was, when I originally met her, I was working for my father in construction. And
that sounds as if it could be a long-term proposition. What happened?
well, we got slow, so I went on to started a maintenance company to do some work, and times were hard, but I never asked for anything.
You took?
No, I never asked for anything from
No,
her.
I didn't say asked. I
She
said,
offered,
but you took.
She offered, I took.
Okay. Tell me what you gave him.
Originally, he was asking for little amounts of money, you know, here or there. Hey, 20 bucks, 40 bucks, I'll get it back to you at the end of the week. Not a problem. I don't even have recollection of that.
Okay.
Okay. The first time really that he asked for a significant amount of money was the end of June. And in fact, I wrote a check out to him, which I have, for $350.
What was that for?
He needed money to pay his July rent in bills.
Is that right, sir?
No.
What do you mean no? It's made out to you.
She gave me cash. She wrote out
She
a
didn't
check, I cashed it, and
Yeah.
I didn't use it for, I never said anything about rent or anything like that.
Well, what'd you use it for?
Just going out, doing stuff.
What else?
I mean, he didn't even have money to go to work, okay? So I didn't want that to happen, okay? Because for him, for his kids, you know, my good heart that I wanted to help him.
And you thought you had a future together.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Right. You know, and things were going good.
Okay.
You know, that I thought, that I knew.
Your Honor.
And so at that point, I extended out an Amico credit card to him. And I said, here, Brian, now listen, anything that you use, it's your responsibility. Okay, we're gonna get through the tough times, but here's the card. I'm keeping track, you keep track, and let's go with it. He went with it. He went all out on it.
You mean you had the Amico company put a credit card in his name?
He was an authorized signer on my account.
Oh, okay.
Which ended real quick.
Not quick enough, according to
Correct.
your complaint.
Correct.
How much did he charge up on your credit card?
$700 on the credit card.
Yeah, okay. According to your complaint, there came a time when you told him, hey, Brian, give me back the credit card.
Right.
I'm ripping it up.
Correct.
Cutting it in half. You're not entitled
Yes.
to it anymore. Don't use it anymore.
Right.
When was that?
I threw an extravagant birthday party for him. Just a gala event. Blackjack tables, kegs of beer, decorations, food, okay? We were having a good time, you know, people were having a great time.
So what
All of a sudden, I looked, he's gone. He left. He left his own party. Left his van there, okay? And went with a bunch of his friends and took off.
Okay,
Didn't hear from him.
So you got angry, and that's when the romance was over.
Correct. That was it. That was the final straw.
All right. When did you get your credit card back?
The next day, I called Amico, and I said, no more. All right, I called him and I said, Brian, no more. And
But did he continue to charge on your credit card after that?
he continued to charge after I found that Amico received a phone call, and he continued to authorize service on my card after he got my Social Security number.
Your Honor, that's not true.
Did you continue to use the card after she told you not to?
I went up to the pump to use it, and it was done. And I couldn't
Sir.
use it anymore, and then I threw it away.
Sir, listen to
There
me.
was never a call
Hey,
from...
listen.
Yes.
I asked you a simple question. After she told you not to use the card anymore, which was after your birthday party in July of '95?
Correct.
You continued to use the card.
From what I recollect is that it was not right after my birthday. It was... it had to be 3 weeks to a month later.
Had you been dating each other during that 3 or 4 week period?
She had got me into a golf tournament.
After your birthday?
After my birthday.
Can I see the Amico bills,
Yes.
please?
They start from 7/21 on.
And my birthday's 7/18.
Sir, you used this card until the end of December.
That's when I got a call that it was done. That's when she called me to tell me it was done. It wasn't in July
even
or
according
August.
to you, sir, it was maybe 3 or 4 weeks after your birthday party in July. That would bring us up into August. You used her card big time. September, October, November, December. That's outrageous.
2-3
Why
times
did you
a
do?
day.
Why did you do that?
I don't know.
Well, it was wrong.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Friday night softball games, I'd go into my bag after softball was done, and there'd be $200, $300 in there. In an envelope.
And later
Well,
today,
now you'll know better. You don't move in with somebody unless you love them, unless you're prepared to have aggravation.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. After Mary Sauter met Brian Visner playing softball, he borrowed money and used her credit card. They split. Now she wants the money back.
Why do you think you don't owe her this money? So far, we're up to $1,050.
Why don't I think I owe her the money? It's because she had done things through this whole relationship. The trip to Chicago was just I came home from work on a Saturday, and she called that Saturday afternoon and said, "You want to go to Chicago? I'm buying. Let's go have some fun." I said,
It's
"Well,
fine.
you know."
Wait, I haven't even talked about Chicago. I'm talking about the $350 she gave you for rent.
I have no clue what that was for. I mean, I don't think it was for rent. I really don't.
I don't care if you bought $350 worth of bubble gum with it. The idea is she gave you the money. What you did with it is your business. I'm
Right.
sure she didn't give you this check because you said, "I want to buy bubble gum." She gave you this check because you said you were in dire straits for money.
I was really never in dire straits for money. I was always working. I always had money.
All right. I'm up to $1,050, madam.
Yes.
Do you have any other checks that you say
Yes,
that
I
you can
did.
prove debt?
Yes. This is the other check that I have this is for cash. And he went to the bank with me because he didn't have a bank account, and I got straight cash for him.
Do you remember that, sir?
No. No, I don't.
Remember what this was for?
Cash.
I mean, but what did he need the money for in June? June 8th?
Probably like what he did on the Amico card, cigarettes and whatever else he had. I mean, you know, if he says he's having money on his own, I have no idea. He went up to the, you know, I like to gamble too, but he's out to Mystic Lake, a gambling facility, when he doesn't even have money. He's probably using my money to gamble with.
Well, the memo on this, sir, is clearly, it says, "For you for cash."
I make all notes on
I'm
my
sure
checks.
it does. She probably wrote it out, cashed it, got the cash, and put that on there. That's fine. I don't remember receiving a check for that or
You
any
didn't
cash
get a check
for that.
for it, cash. You mean to tell me you have no memory of getting cash from her?
Not for that. No.
For what?
For any. I mean, I do remember getting cash from her at other times.
Like how much?
Friday night softball games. I'd go into my bag after softball was done, and there'd be $200, $300 in there, in an envelope. I never asked for it, and then she'd put her name on there. Yes, this is for me. So I'd take it. I'd spend it. I don't say what I did was right. It was wrong. But,
I've been a judge for a long time. What always strikes me as being interesting, for want of a better word, is that there are usually more women standing in your place and usually more men standing in his place than there are vice versa. When are women going to wise up?
I have.
When are women going to wise up? You don't know somebody 4 weeks and then give them money.
I have. I mean, I was like, I've been guilty of it for all my whole life. I was a good heart.
Your
That
Honor.
was it, and I've learned.
You ought to stop.
Well, believe
Your
me, I have
Honor.
a fiance now that gives me money, and we have everything together.
Your Honor,
What?
I'm not the first person that she's done this to. There's 3 or 4 other guys before me that she's done the same thing
You
for.
mean been very generous with?
Yes.
Well, let me ask you this
Very
question,
generous.
sir. When did you find that out?
After I started seeing Mary.
In what? You mean in May?
Well, maybe a few weeks after that.
Few weeks
after the trip
All right.
after the trip to Chicago.
Hey, talking. Few weeks after that, I want you to tell me how it came about that you found out that she had been generous with men friends before.
Other guys on the softball team that we played on.
And I usually don't accept hearsay, but the conversation was you going out with Mary and she's pretty generous with her money?
The conversation was, what did you do last week? And I said, Mary took me to Chicago. Well, she
Yeah.
likes to do that for the guys that she's seeing. She likes to spend money on them and treat them nice.
How lovely.
Your Honor?
Don't say anything else.
Okay.
Don't say anything else, with the exception of learning the words, almost like a mantra. I'm sorry I don't lend money to people that I know for such a short time.
Guilty.
Right. Guilty. Guilty. You owe her $1,500. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,500. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
She said a lot of things. I took advantage of her, and I don't disagree with that. That's what Mary does for a living. She sues people.
And now the next case.
Parties on Magid versus Miller. Step forward, please.
27-year-old Sandy Majid is suing her roommate, John Miller, claiming he was violent and verbally abusive.
How long did you know each other before you decided to room together?
10 years.
Why did you decide to room together?
Because we were friends and he needed to move out of his place because he had a dog, and I moved out of my parents' house.
You weren't romantically involved, you were just friends.
Right.
Now, under this rather bizarre arrangement, reading the complaint, you were supposed to perform certain maid services in the house, like keeping the house nice and clean, doing the cleaning, the cooking, the washing, and he would pay all of the expenses with the exception of your phone bill. Is that the idea?
And the rent. I paid rent.
And you paid the rent, but he would pay everything else.
Yeah, but that only lasted for 2 months. And then we talked about it, and it wasn't working, so we each decided to
After 8 months.
take care of our own thing.
I paid all the bills for 8 months.
But, he wouldn't clean up after himself if he left something. He'd just leave the sauce on the table. He wouldn't do normal maintenance. He'd give his dog a shower and have hair all over the place and water all over the floor. I mean, he didn't even pick up after himself.
It's not true.
Right! And I got one of those home.
Yeah.
And I pay half the rent.
Yeah.
Miss Majid, I don't like cleaning up after my husband, and I love him. You made an arrangement to clean up after this man, and after a while, you didn't even like him. Not too smart.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Could I talk about the pain and suffering?
No.
Okay,
You don't,
and
sir,
then
you don't look like you're in pain, and you don't look like you're
mental
suffering anymore.
anguish. If I
Mental
told
anguish.
you what she
Oh.
put me through.
Oh, God.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandy Majid is suing her former roommate, John Miller, for verbal abuse and destruction of property. John is countersuing for mental anguish.
It's always smart for women to pay their own way.
But we had...
Listen to me, if you pay your own way, then you don't have to take anybody's guff. Right, Bert?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, so he didn't clean up after himself.
And I cleaned for about 2 months, and then I paid the other half of the bills.
It was only the utility bills. I would pay all the utility bills if she would do the cleaning, because I paid Sandy in my last apartment $50 to clean the place.
And I did.
And she did a great cleaning job. That's why I thought I'd work out this deal with her. The place would stay clean, and I would pay all the bills.
Well, staying clean is one thing, but you know, you can't be.
No, I
but she
wasn't
says you were
overdoing it.
being
No,
a
she would
slob.
never clean. Nothing.
Huh?
That's
She
not
never
true.
cleaned a thing.
All right, so you should have moved out after 2 months. You should have gone your own separate ways after 2
Yeah,
months.
well, we were friends
Would you,
for 10 years.
would you mind telling me what you're suing each other for? You have a suit, you have a
Yeah.
countersuit. You want to tell me what you're suing him for?
I'm suing for my print and my frame here because he threw something at it and broke it.
Can I see it?
Yes.
He admits that he threw something at it and broke it, right?
Yeah.
Why were you mad at her
Well,
picture?
that was the last straw. That was when I had paid all the bills and done the cleaning. Her dog had chewed up my sofa. And then I gave her all the money to pay the bills, and she went on vacation with the money, and I got disconnect notices. I had to pay the bills again. When I called her up and told her, she says, "What do I care if they were turned off? I'm moving out anyways." A moment later, when I hung up the phone, that's when I smashed the picture.
All right, so
she
you
was
smashed
moving
the
out.
picture, but that's just the glass on the picture,
That's
madam.
right.
No, it's also that there's scratches on the print.
Would you
and
show
the-
me where, please?
Right there. And right here, it devalued the thing, and right, it messed up the mat.
Well, the mat
and
is...
the frame is all scratched.
Just a second. How much did you pay for that?
For the frame and the picture?
For everything?
$920.
$920?
Yeah.
Where did you buy that?
At the Wing Gallery.
Do you like this picture, sir?
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Yeah, he can have it.
All right.
All right. What else are you suing him for?
All right.
I'm
Here's
also
a couple
suing
bucks for it.
for
I feel like I'm running a tag sale here.
the last month and a half of rent because I wasn't there, because he
Oh,
was
my fault.
throwing
Just a
things and
second.
being angry.
Just a second. Did you leave?
Yes.
You don't get that. What's next?
So I had to pay for the last months of rent, and I wasn't even staying there.
But you left. I mean, you agreed to rent this apartment together, right? Am I
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So you have a responsibility to pay until the end of your lease. So that you don't get.
It was
What else are you
month to
suing for?
month. Pain and suffering, because, I mean, he would just verbally abuse me, and...
You're not married to each other if you're not getting along with your roommate. Then
But,
you're
I
not
mean,
getting
you
along
know,
with
he'd
your roommate.
leave that place a mess constantly. I mean, it was just like I couldn't win.
Well, now you'll know better. You don't move in with somebody unless you love them, unless you're prepared to have aggravation.
But I couldn't stay there because I
You
was,
say you
I
couldn't
was
stay there.
afraid
You
to
don't
stay
like.
there.
You weren't getting along, madam. You weren't getting along. You knew each other for 10 years.
He
You
was
weren't getting along. You
throwing
moved out.
stuff and yelling.
Oh God. What are you suing her for, sir?
She was supposed to clean the house, which she didn't do. So I'm suing $640, which is half the utility bills, which I should get back.
Because you don't like the way she kept the house.
She didn't clean the place at all. I would do any
That's not
cleaning.
Good. That's why you're not together anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Okay,
All
so that's
right.
part of mine.
Just a second. What's the other part? Your pain
That-
and suffering. I saw your
yeah,
pain and suffering
that's
too.
a-
Everybody's
that's-
got pain and
That's
suffering.
really
Bert.
a big part of my case.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sir, you don't look like you're in pain, and you don't look like you're suffering
Mental
anymore.
anguish. If I
Mental
told you
anguish.
what she
Oh.
put me through, could I mention a few things?
Mention a few things.
Okay, let's put it this way. After she lost her job, she had a really bad mental breakdown. She went to counseling on Prozac. Next thing I know, every time I would take a shower, she'd run the hot water in the kitchen so I wouldn't have any hot water.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, just like you
Just
told
a-
me you used to lock your mother in the walk-in closet.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Miller, is
I
there
have a
anything
lot
else
of
you
little
want?
things like that that are sad and ridiculous, you know.
Sounds like what married people do to each other.
Yeah.
Your countersuit is dismissed, sir. You just bought a picture for $920. Judgment in the case is for the plaintiff. Hang the picture, put a piece of glass. It's really very nice.
All right.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
She didn't keep her end of the agreement. You know, I'm paying all the bills, and she's turned the place into a pigsty. She was continuing cleaning other people's homes. She said, I have to clean that person's home for $50. Then she wanted me to pay her to clean up her own mess.
I don't hate him. We just didn't get along as roommates.
Yeah, it sometimes happens when you live together, but it's sad after 10 years of friendship to come down to this.
Parties Party's on Bledsoe versus Bryant. Step forward, please.
28-year-old news producer Robert Bledsoe says his former fiancée, Renee Lynn Bryant, owes him money for past due bills.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 380 on the calendar in the matter of Bledsoe versus Bryant. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
You folks were engaged according to these papers and moved into a house together. The engagement didn't ripen into a marriage and you broke up.
Correct.
You say she owes you some money.
She agreed at the time that we broke up to pay the phone bill, which was approximately 80% hers, while she did not work the 3 months while we were engaged and living together, she made numerous calls, and the phone bill equaled almost $500, and she made probably 80% of the bill, and she agreed at that time to pay for that. No, for the phone bill, and then, half of the utilities, half of the rent. She only gave me $940 the entire time after we moved in.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Just a minute.
And she gave me that $940, but the bills were considerably more than that, obviously. I mean, what she should have paid, all told, is $1,371.19. That's if we split the bills in half. But I said, once you just pay the phone bill, she agreed to that. She was going to pay it after her first check from her new job. She had just gotten a job right at the time we split up, and she was to pay me at the 1st of August when she got paid, and she did not. Then she put it on, and she said, I'll pay you the next month. The next month came. She did not. In the meantime, I had to borrow money from my parents in order to pay the phone bill, which was $500, so I could get another phone later. And at that time, she didn't pay in September. She promised me by the end of the month. I called near the end of the month. She told me she had no intention of paying me. She didn't feel she owed me the money, and that I would just have to sue her. Okay. And
my first question to you, Mr. Bledsoe, is this. You say that during the course of the 3 months that you lived together, she should have paid you $1,371.
If we were to have half.
If you were to split the expenses.
Mm-hmm.
And she paid you $940.
Correct.
Which leaves $431 if you were to split the bills in half.
Correct.
And you say that she agreed to pay the $500 phone bill in place of that. So she's really paying $69 more than she should have.
However, I also paid one of her truck payments for $277.97 on my credit card, and she was supposed to pay me before the following month, before interest accrued on that amount, and she did not. And then the next month, she had another bill, and she wanted me to do the same thing, charge my credit
Mr.
card.
Bledsoe. So, is what you're saying you forgave everything as long as she paid the $500 phone bill?
It was a settlement. It was nothing more than a settlement.
What I'm asking you is what you're saying that in lieu of the truck payment and the $431,
yes,
that you were prepared to accept the $500 phone bill?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
No.
Now I'll hear from you.
Okay, Your Honor, we need to back up because when I agreed to marry Robert Bledsoe, who I loved dearly at that time, he had convinced me that I should quit my full-time teaching job.
I'm not interested in that.
Okay. Well, I moved to Altaloma, where we rented a house. Okay, he borrowed $1,600 from his mother and father, Mr. and Mrs. Richard Bledsoe. When I received my very last teaching check, which was of $1,400, I gave him $1,200 cash for the deposit. So he gave his parents the $1,200 cash, which left $400 that he had to give them. When things didn't work out between us, okay, I lost my $1,200 deposit.
Well, that's
but
what I'm
I have to say that I worked the entire time. I was a substitute teacher.
Just a minute.
And I have my pay.
Just a second.
Yes, Your Honor.
Because I read that in the answer, and Mr. Bledsoe, you seem to have left that out, although you do indicate that she paid for 3/4 of the deposit, the security deposit.
She did.
On the house.
Yes.
And that was lost.
Yes.
And that was $1,200?
The security deposit
Yes.
was at $825. Then there was $825 for first month's rent.
Well, let's not count the first month's rent because you lived there.
Right.
Let's talk about the $825.
Yeah.
But we had to come up with, I'm sorry, Your Honor.
She paid the $825.
No. Well, she paid $1,050, and then I paid $600, which equaled $650. $1,650, which was the full move-in.
So she paid more than you did.
Oh, yes.
How much more?
At $400.
Okay. So she paid $400 more than you did, which she lost.
She lost that, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I cannot prove that I gave him cash, and that's a sorry thing that I didn't get receipts from my fiancé when we were going out because I assumed that we were going to be married, and in the course of being married, that it would all wash out in the end.
And later today,
Did you ever tell your sister that this was a gift?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
She probably can't even come today and look me in the eye and say that. That's why she's not here.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Bledsoe wants his former fiancée, Renee Lynn Bryant, to repay him for past due bills. Renee says he made her quit her job to move in with him.
Well, it seems to me, Mr. Bledsoe, that what's fair is fair. If she lost $400 more than you did, she has to be given credit for that. Don't you believe so?
Well, no, because I offered her at the time that we were about to split up. We agreed to stay together even after we agreed to leave the house. And we had to leave the house just because I had given them a check to pay for the rent that month in July, but I didn't have the funds. She only gave me $200 to cover that. She was unable to pay her half of the rent that month.
Now,
however, I was able to pay my half of the rent.
But that's my next question to you, Mr. Bledsoe, because I read your papers very carefully, sir. You say the last month that you were there, she gave you $200 towards the rent. You wrote out a check for the entire rent, gave it to the landlord. And how much was the entire rent?
$825.
But then you stopped payment on that check.
I had to stop payment on that.
What did you do with the $200 that she gave you?
Oh, I began paying bills. I began paying the bills. Most of the bills.
Just a minute. We've already talked about the bills. The bills were the original $1,371 that you said that you had all together. What did you do with her $200? Did you give it back to her?
No. She told me I could keep it.
Well, so far, let me understand
because
this,
she knew
Mr.
that
Bledsoe.
she owed me money.
Right, but she can't keep owing you money if she keeps giving you money, sir. She gave you $200, all right?
That's part of the 940. That is not in addition to the 940. That is part of the 940, the $940.
Oh,
I have just added up everything she ever gave me.
So you are giving her credit. The $940 includes the $200?
Correct.
Is
But
that
it doesn't
correct?
include
The
the deposit.
It doesn't include the $400.
And it doesn't include the money that I made as a substitute teacher working for Altaloma, Cucamonga, and Riverside that I gave him cash.
Yes, it does.
Well, just a second.
All you gave
just a
me
second.
was
You
cash.
can't prove that you gave him the cash.
You can't
Just
prove
a
that I didn't
second.
give- Excuse me, Your Honor, I'm sorry.
All right. So we have $940, and I'm adding on to the $940 $400, which is the deposit.
However, it should only be $200 more because if I was to pay half, I only needed to pay $200 more.
She lost $400.
Right.
She lost $400. You lost.
I lost $200.
But you're already
Or wait.
getting. Just a second. You're already getting credit for that, sir.
No, she lost $600. She lost.
She paid $400 more than you did.
Right. She paid $400.
$400 more than you did. That's all that I'm interested in. Well, that evens out the $1,371. So now all we're down to is truck payment, $277.97. Do you owe him that?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
Because I assumed since I had paid more the deposit that was his way of giving me back some of the money.
No, I'm
But
giving you
seeing-
credit for that.
Okay.
I've given you credit
I gave
for that.
him, you see, you're right. I cannot prove that I gave him cash, and that's a sorry thing that I didn't get receipts from my fiancé when we were going out because I assumed that we were going to be married. And in the course of our relationship of being married, that it would all wash out in the end. And I
Okay.
did get a full-time job, and, you know, obviously things
All
didn't
right.
work out.
Shh, listen to me.
Yes, Your Honor.
$277 is for the truck payment. It didn't work out, so you have to pay for your own truck payment.
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, you had a $500 phone bill. Show me the $500 phone bill. Is this $1,300 that you gave me, including all the utility bills and everything else?
And yes.
Well, then it includes the
rent.
telephone.
Yes. I didn't say that it didn't.
I thought you had
I'm sorry.
an ending bill of $500,
No, when I
sir.
said utilities, I
Well,
was
I've already
including
taken
phone.
care of the utilities.
Mhm.
It's a wash. The utilities and her additional $400 plus the money she gave you is a wash. So she owes you for the truck payment $277.97, not $1,100. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $277.97. Thank you. That's all.
Bodies are excused. You may step out.
I just want to forget about it all. But I want to say, you ladies out there, get your receipts for cash.
And now the next case.
Bodies on Mackins versus Richardson. Step forward, please.
Hairdresser Terry Mackins is suing her brother-in-law, George Richardson, for a house loan and money for a stove. George says Terry is retaliating because he beat up her brother.
This is your brother-in-law?
Yes, it is, Your Honor.
And he is married to your sister?
Yes, he is.
According to your complaint, you lent your brother-in-law and your sister some money.
Yes.
For house. And also sold them a stove.
Yes.
They refused to pay you for either.
As of this date, yes.
So first tell me, how much was this loan towards the house and how it came about?
I loaned my sister and my brother-in-law $700. My sister and my brother-in-law called me and asked me if I would lend them this money so they can go to closing on their home. I got cash. I got a check from my credit union account, got it mailed to me, and I got it cashed. And I gave them the cash money for their
So
home.
far, is that correct?
Yes.
And in December, we had bought our own home. And our home, in our kitchen, we wanted to do our kitchen over again. We had a brand new kitchen. And we got rid of the cabinets, and we sold my brother, my brother-in-law and my sister the stove for $150, which was to be payable as soon as they got the money as well. So that's the $850 I'm asking
Well, tell
for.
me how the sale of the stove came about.
My brother-in-law was over our house, and we had talked to him about we were getting rid of certain things in our kitchen. And we told him we were selling the stove and how much we wanted for it, and he said he wanted it. And Reginald Bear, who's my witness, delivered the stove to their house.
Okay. So, what's your story?
Well, my story is the $700 was at first given on a, well, we actually told her we was going to pay her back when we had a lawsuit and we was getting ready to settle. And we
What
said,
kind of lawsuit?
A car accident. And we were going to pay her back the money that she loaned us for the house. And Terry told us it was a gift. She gave us this money.
He's lying, Your Honor.
Just a second.
No. She gave the money to my wife. My wife initially told her that we were going to pay her back. And then she came back about, what, day later, because she calls every day, every morning at 7 o'clock, and she said, forget about the money, it's a gift. It's a housewarming gift. That's what she told my wife.
Just a second.
Sure.
Where's your wife today?
She's home. She's disgusted with the whole thing.
Just a second. You just told me that the conversation that she had allegedly was with your wife.
Right, and she...
Well, then I'm
converted
not
me.
hearing that conversation because that's hearsay.
So is this agreement with us giving it back to her.
No, sir. Shh. Sit down. I'm not ready to hear you yet.
No problem.
No, sir. You just acknowledged that your original agreement with her, when you called to ask her for the money, was that you were going to pay her back.
Right.
And according to your sister-in-law, she has lent you money before, and you have paid her back.
Plenty of times.
And you have paid her
This
back.
was a gift, Your Honor.
No, no.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's lying.
And no.
No, don't speak to him. You speak to me.
Listen to
Hey,
your answers,
sir, speak to me.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Terry Mackins wants the money back she gave her brother-in-law, George Richardson. George says she's only suing because he beat up her brother.
Listen to me, sir. You're not following what I'm saying to you.
I completely
You
understand.
first said to me that it was a loan. and you agreed
No,
to pay her back.
I never. Okay.
And you agreed to pay her back. That was your understanding.
Right.
She gave you the money, and I assume you and your wife went to the closing on the house with her money, right?
Yes, we did.
And when you did that, the intention was to pay her back.
Right.
Now you tell me that she had a conversation with your wife who was not present. And your not present wife told you that it was a gift. That's what you just told me.
That's exactly what I said.
Right. Did you ever tell your sister that this was a gift?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
She probably can't even come today and look me in the eye and say that. That's why she's not here.
That is why she's not here.
Absolutely.
That's not
Absolutely.
true.
That's why she's
That's
not here, because
true. My sister, my wife is disgusted with my sister-in-law because this whole thing is all just a payback thing because I beat her brother up.
Why did you beat her brother up?
Because he assaulted me.
Your Honor, this is why we're here in court today.
Right.
This is why my brother-in-law is not paying me back, because I called him up the day after he fought my brother, and I kind of like told him about himself because what he did was not necessary. The whole thing is, George and Wendy owes me money, and I would like my money back. I don't have $700 to give nobody. I work very hard for my money, and I never told Wendy it was a gift.
Stove. You had the stove in your house. How did the stove get to your house?
The Reginald brought it over to my house.
Oh, okay. Now tell me under what circumstances Reginald brought it over to your house.
Reginald called me up and said, though, you want the stove? I said, well, look, I haven't talked to Wendy. Wendy's my wife. I said, I haven't talked to Wendy because we have gas. And I said, we have to decide, you know, if she want to convert. So he says, well, listen, I'm trying to get the stove out of the house. Can I bring it over? So I said yes. I didn't consult the Wendy because Wendy was at work. So next day he brought it over. And when he brought it and I got an enclosed porch in the front of the house, so it sat on the porch. And so I finally got around and talking to Wendy about the stove. So Wendy decided, we both decided that we didn't want to convert to electric. So I called them. I called them numerous times. Come get the stove. I even had a cookout at my house. Reggie was trying to make me buy the stove. No, man, you gotta buy the stove. I'm like, what's up with this? So I called them, told them, come get the stove.
He's lying.
And no.
No, don't speak to him. You speak to me.
Listen to your answer,
sir, speak to me.
I called them, told them to come get the stove. They would not come to get the stove. The stove stayed on my porch running for almost 8 months. So my wife stayed on my back about, get the stove off the porch. I got a little 2-year-old. He's climbing up on the range and pulling the grill out and everything.
So you sold it.
Right. So I sold the stove. I sold the stove for $30 just to get my wife off my back.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Reginald, now you step up, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how are you related to the plaintiff?
That's my fiance.
Okay, so now tell me about the stove.
When I took the stove over there, I told him, you don't have to rush and pay me the $150, but I charged him $150 for the stove and $100 to install it because I am a licensed electrician.
Did you install it?
No, I did not. What I did, I dropped the stove off
Well, how
on
could
his
he
porch.
use it if you didn't install it?
Well, I told him when he's ready to get it installed, I would install it for him. So, in return, I took the stove over, put it on the porch, left it there. After the occasion with the fight with him and her brother, we called him up and told him we would like to be paid for our $700 as well as our $150 for the stove. The gentleman turned around.
All right.
He
sir,
turned around.
Sir, what I've done is I have now warned you. This is the 4th time. And I've gotten tired of warning you. So, $700 is what you owe them for the loan, and $150 for the stove. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $850. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
He's still lying. Out the back
Judge
of
Judy
right.
continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
Wendy,
like I
trust
said,
me,
Wendy,
I'm a benefit. I've been with
if
Wendy
you're
for
not
15
with him,
years.
If you're not with him, and if you need something,
your
you can come to me. Don't never ask me nothing as long as you have this guy with you.
He's elite.
Your so-called fiance.
Keep
He's
the parasite.
elite. You
Keep
claim
the
everything
parasite.
she owns.
Keep the parasite.
Everything she owned. If it wasn't for her, you still be wearing polka dots and stripes.
He's elite.
And what are you wearing?
I'm matching.
Polka dots and
You're
stripes.
damn right.
Hello.
They're damn right. And it's
Thank
all
you.
name brand.
It's on Buzzini versus Muniz. Step forward, please.
34-year-old male model Brian Buzzini is suing Charles Muniz, owner of Baby Janes of Hollywood. Brian is accusing Charles of selling unauthorized photographs of him to his fans.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. Your Honor, it's number 92 on the calendar in the matter of Buzzini versus Muniz. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat.
Mr. Buzzini, you say that the defendant has in his possession pictures of you and has been selling them and is not authorized to have them or sell them. You want $5,000 in damages.
Yes, Your Honor.
Why don't you tell me how he came into possession of these pictures and why you think that you're damaged to the tune of $5,000?
Well, Your Honor, my wife had arranged a public appearance with the defendant. I was to appear, and what I was promoting at the time was a couple posters that I had and also a calendar which I'd worked on. It was a project of 2 years. This is one of the pictures that will be in question. The agreement was to appear for approximately 2 hours, which was fine, and I would be signing autographs of the posters, and that's all that I was aware of at the time.
Signing the posters?
Posters, correct.
Are you a model by trade, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
And I do have a portfolio here. This is my livelihood. And
Okay. And Mr. Muniz, Muniz, you have a store that's called Baby Janes of Hollywood?
Yes.
What kind of store is this?
Celebrity collectibles.
And how do you make your money?
Normally selling stills and posters and autographs. We have autograph sessions a couple times a year.
And is this one of those autograph sessions that
Yes.
you arranged for?
Mrs. Buzzini came to us to carry his posters, and she wanted to sell us all the posters. We don't normally stock non-movie posters. So what we agreed with her was we would give him 100% of the money for the poster sales as long as he would sign the other photographs that we had, which were from a Playgirl layout from 1985. He was Man of the Year. But we asked if she could supply us with another photo that was current and that he had clothes on, that we could use with the press and that he could sign at the event.
How many photographs were you supposed to get for you to sell in exchange for letting him come in and sign his posters and sell them?
We printed 50 of each image. There are 3 images.
So you had 150
Yes.
altogether that was supposed to be your property, and you were supposed to keep 100% of the revenues from those?
No, he would get $5 for every signature that he put onto a photo. And if people came in with their own items, like their copies of Playgirl, he would get $5 for that also.
Your Honor, the defendant had mentioned to me prior to me arriving, would you object to signing other photographs if people brought them along? And I said, no, I'll accommodate that, and that's no problem.
Is that relevant?
Yes, it is.
How?
Because halfway during or not even halfway during, they started bringing pictures that was this picture, which I had no idea at the time that was printed up. This was not to be printed up. This is a project, Your Honor, that is in progress. I have not sold this yet.
Who started bringing those pictures?
Some of the fans that were lining up had a couple. There wasn't many. Most of them were the Playgirl, which I really didn't know that was going to happen either. That they would.
Well, they had to get that picture from someplace, sir.
Well, they got it from Mr. Moniz,
Okay.
which I didn't understand.
How did he get that?
I gave him, not this particular picture, a larger, I believe, 11 by 14 print.
Uh-huh.
My wife brought it to him to advertise that I would be there on January 11th. Your Honor, this is my livelihood. I'll just
Mr.
give you,
Buzzini, I'm trying
I'll
to
give you an
understand.
example.
No, don't give me an example. I'm not.
Well, this is.
Listen to me.
Okay, ma'am.
Put it down. Put it down.
I'm trying to show you my work, what I do for a lot of money, my livelihood, to raise my children and my family.
Mr. Buzzini, this is a court, sir. Evidently, from your papers, and he acknowledges that you signed a bunch of them quickly and he kept some of them. Is that correct?
No, there were, he was paid for everything that he signed. There were leftover unsigned ones. So in the interim between the December appearance and today, probably 5 photos have been sold that were unsigned.
And how much did you sell them for?
$15.
A piece?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Bazzini, that's what this lawsuit is about. Those, let us just say they were 5.
Even if it's 1, yes.
Okay. I want you to explain to me how you were damaged for $5,000.
Your Honor, if I can physically show you the type of work that I've done that has brought me this commercial reel that I have is
Mr.
$1 million.
Bazzini, this is not an opportunity for you to impress me with your work, sir.
No.
Well, I want you to explain to me how you're damaged. You sat at a desk, sir, and signed for $5 a piece the same pictures that he sold unsigned for $15 a piece. So it's not as if you didn't give away those pictures or sell those pictures when you were sitting there. So I don't understand where you come to $5,000, sir.
Ma'am, when I have a letter here, if you will, from my agent that explains what I make per image. My agreement with Mr. Moniz was entirely to promote something, correct? It was
just a minute, Mr. Bazzini, you're not following me. This is not a situation where they're invading your privacy, that they're using unauthorized pictures of you, that they're doing something in an underhanded fashion. They had some leftover pictures. You shouldn't have done that. You acknowledge, sir, that you shouldn't have sold those pictures. That wasn't part of your agreement.
Well, in movie memorabilia, that's what everything is the leftover pictures from press kits. And
I know, but was it your understanding with his wife that you could keep those?
I understood that we could. If
Okay.
it was a problem, he's more than, I mean, we could love to destroy the photos.
You want to say something?
I'm the co-owner of Baby
Yes,
Jane
this
of
is
Hollywood.
Roy Wyndham.
Yes.
And our entire agreement with Mr. Bazzini appearing was through his wife. We never once talked to Mr. Bazzini on the phone before the signing.
That's a lie.
I kept asking the wife, actually talking to a machine, saying that we need a current photograph for the day of the signing, and we needed a current photograph of him so we could advertise it, because the photograph that we had was him nude. And we can't advertise those in local newspapers.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I think your ego maybe is a little too big. You know, our story is Baby Jane of Hollywood, not Brian Bazzini of Hollywood.
And later today,
I don't think that once you pass the age of 2 or 3, you ought to show your rear end in public. So you keep the photographs.
Yes, I will.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 34-year-old model Brian Bazzini is suing the owner of Baby Janes of Hollywood, Charles Muniz, for selling unauthorized photographs. Mr. Muniz says it was an oversight and not done out of malice.
We're talking about the leftover pictures, pictures that you made extra of that were not used at the signing.
Correct.
That he is angry about because he said he was not paid for those pictures.
We paid for everything to be printed. We paid for everything to be made. And when he came in, everything was available for customers to purchase that day. And he saw the quantity that we had of each.
So?
And the remainder was there to be sold.
Well, but that's what he's saying. He's saying it was not his understanding that the remainder was going to stay with you to be sold. Is that what you're complaining
Your Honor,
about?
I didn't even know that these pictures existed. And if you could put yourself in the situation, you have
Where's
100
your
people
wife?
in line.
Where's your wife?
My wife was with my children.
Just a second.
She was 9 months pregnant
Where's your wife
at the time.
today?
Today she's with my daughter at the doctor.
Mr. Bazzini.
Well, I think
You want to tell me what doctor it is? I'll give him a call.
Oh, I don't know.
Huh? I'm good at that. You want to tell me what doctor? Your wife was there, and your wife was the one who negotiated with these people what they were supposed to do. We haven't. Why don't you sit down?
I have a picture here that he signed. This is a photograph that he's complaining about. They autographed to me the day of the signing, so he knew that we had available in the store. He knew they were sold.
After the fact, Your Honor. After the fact, I'm sitting there with 100 people in line.
I appreciate the hospitality.
Sit down, sir.
Your
We're
Honor,
reaching a point, sir, where I'm getting frustrated because...
I'm getting frustrated also. I have 100 people in line. I can't stop it. I'll look like a damn prima donna. Pardon me. I look like a prima donna. I mean, what am I supposed to do? These pictures are starting to come. It's my understanding that I'm selling posters. I've traveled all over the world, and if you'd allow me to show you something, I could give you an idea of what I make.
Sir,
I make $5,000
This is not an opportunity
per
to you.
appearance. Not $5. I was doing that more as a favor and to get something circulated.
Mr. Pizzini,
with a new.
You're full of baloney. Let me tell you why you're full of baloney, sir.
I've got letters.
Let me tell you why you're full of baloney, sir.
There.
You're full of baloney, A, because your wife entered into these negotiations. You did not. Your wife is not here today. There's a reason for it, and it's not because she's with the doctor with your child. 2, you still haven't told me today why you believe you're entitled to $5,000. Your complaint is that he sold the pictures without your autograph, 5 of them, and you say that you're damaged to the tune of $5,000 when you sat there yourself and signed the same pictures for $5 a piece.
Can I clarify something?
Go ahead.
I questioned it the first time this picture was presented to me to sign. I said, this is a project. I don't want this picture out. That's like revealing the cover of your book to the public before people see it. I questioned it. They said it's for a few of your wonderful fans or your best fans. Somebody said that, and I said, how do you define who's the best fan here? And I said, okay, fine. I mean, I'm sitting there in front of a bunch of people, ma'am. I don't want to make a ruckus.
Fine. Just a second. So you said, okay, fine, and you signed them.
The alternative was to walk out. Does that make me look? That doesn't make me look too great in front of people that sat in line for
Listen
me,
to
Your
me,
Honor.
sir.
I mean,
that's your option. If they presented you with pictures and you didn't want to sign them, you could have said, I'm not signing those. I'm just signing my posters, or I'll sign the photographs that people come with.
Well, that's good publicity.
Fine. You sold 5 pictures of him?
Yes.
And you sold them for $15 a piece?
Yes. Ma'am, can I just show you a letter from my agent?
No.
To give you an idea? I mean,
absolutely not. I'm not interested in a letter from your agent.
That is billboards all over the world for 5, 10, 20 grand.
Mr. Pizzini, how much did you make for the... Hey.
Pardon me?
How much did you make for the whole day?
Somewhere around $700, $800.
That's not $5,000, sir. So it seems that at least on some occasions you work for less than $5,000 a day. The judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $75, which is the amount of the 5 pictures, the most that you sold. Fares at $15 a piece. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please.
No witness. If everybody could just take a damn picture of me, then I guess I wouldn't have much of a profession. That's like having vigilantes do the work for Judge Judy. Guess she'd be out of a job, wouldn't she? Might be a good idea.
And now the next case.
Parties on McKenzie versus Cooper. Step forward, please.
62-year-old Betty McKenzie says 72-year-old Lonnie Cooper knocked her to the floor while she was in line at her bank. Lonnie says it was Betty who did the shoving.
So you 2 people are online in a bank. You never saw each other before, is that right?
That's right.
You say this nice gentleman over here assaulted you. He says that you assaulted him. I can hardly believe that, looking at the 2 of you. So, Miss McKenzie, let me hear your version of what happened at this bank.
Okay. He was on my right.
You're online?
Yes, I'm in the line. He was on the right.
What was he doing on the right?
He was at a teller.
He was at the teller?
He was at the teller.
So he was in front of you and to the right?
That's right. Okay. I was getting ready, the man was getting ready to come out to teller on my left. The man dropped a piece of paper.
Which man dropped a piece of paper?
The man that was coming out the teller on my left.
So what happened?
I told him he dropped a piece of paper. He said, forget it. And he walked on out the door. The man on my right, he gonna come in front of me to pick up the piece of paper with his right hand.
That's this gentleman?
Yes, and take his left hand and knock me to the floor.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Your lawyer thought you were going to be able to get a lot of money from the bank, and it wasn't the bank's fault because Mr. Cooper had bad manners.
Yeah.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 62-year-old Betty McKenzie says while standing in line at her bank, 72-year-old Lonnie Cooper knocked her to the floor. Mr. Cooper denies any wrongdoing and claims Ms. McKenzie was the one who caused the disturbance.
Mr. Cooper?
Yeah. In the first place, it was on the right-hand side of the teller, and the fellow, the elderly gentleman in front of me, dropped most of his stuff, and I reached down to try to help him, and she busted on past, and I did this to her. I didn't know what it was, and in turn, she wound up over in there. over in there.
What do you mean, Mr. Cooper? She brushed on past you.
Well, she was behind me, so she didn't have no business in front of me.
Just a second. What do you mean she brushed on past you, Mr. Cooper?
Yeah, just like that. And
Who is this?
It's a witness.
Is that your witness?
Character witness.
I'm not interested in a character witness. I assume that you're both characters. Because anybody who can get involved in this is got to be a character. Now listen to me. You stand up for a second. I want you to show me how she brushed on past you.
Come on. See the...
You're her. So show me
Wait a
what she did to you.
The elderly gentleman was up front.
Right.
And I was here and trying to help him with his stuff.
Right.
And then she come past me, and I shoved her like that, and she went over into the...
Right.
See, she was behind me.
I understand that, sir. Mr. Cooper, step back to where the microphone is. Sit down. Mr. Cooper, why did you push her?
She came, brushed past. I told you I was standing in front, trying to help the fella with the papers on the floor.
Why did you push her?
I didn't push. She came past just like that.
No, you pushed her. You just told me that you pushed her.
But it was on the right-hand side.
I don't care. Right, left, middle. It doesn't make any difference, Mr. Cooper. You pushed this lady down. You had no right to do that, sir.
Well?
Yes, that's what you told me. You told me that you pushed her. And she fell. She's not 12 years old. You pushed the lady, she fell down.
Go around pushing women.
Well, but you did push
and
her,
if she had
sir.
acted like a lady and stayed in the line like she's supposed to, this would never be happening.
Mr. Cooper, you are not a... Shh.
Order.
Mr. Cooper, you are not a behavior monitor, a bank behavior monitor. If she did something wrong, you might have said something to her, but you had no right to push her. Now, Miss McKenzie, my question to you is
I didn't intend to push her. I wouldn't have to push her if she had stayed back there where she was supposed to be.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, Mr. Cooper. You're not following me, sir.
Okay.
Miss McKenzie, you say you were injured.
Yes,
How were
I
you
was.
injured, madam?
Like I said, he pushed me to the floor hard. My ear, my back, my legs, I got photos of it.
Can I see it, please? Ooh, that's a nasty. That's just between you and me, okay? Do you have doctor's reports?
Yes, I do.
May I see them, please? I don't think that once you pass the age of 2 or 3, you ought to show your rear end in public. I mean, that's a... So you keep the photographs.
Yes, I will.
How would she get past me if I'm in front of her?
Mr. Cooper, stop being a nudnik.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You had medical bills of $2,645?
That's one of them.
When did this incident occur? What date?
The 4th of March.
This wouldn't have happened if she had been a lady and stayed back there where she was supposed to be, but she wanted to be bullheaded.
Mr. Cooper, she has a lot of medical bills here, and you did the wrong thing. You have medical bills that are about $3,000, $4,000. Were any of them reimbursed by your insurance?
No.
Why not?
I had got a lawyer at first, but he had thought it was the bank. And then when he found out it wasn't the bank, then I
Then he
had to take
dropped
it on my... Yes.
Don't you have medical insurance?
I had Medicaid.
Did you submit these bills to Medicaid?
No, well, my doctor had told me not to do that.
Your doctor told you not to do that because your lawyer thought he was going to be able to work up a big medical bill so that you were going to be able to get a lot of money from the bank. Right. And it wasn't the bank's fault because Mr. Cooper had bad manners.
Yeah.
But I think, Mr. Cooper, that what you did to this lady was wrong, and she suffered for months as a result of your pushing her. She's suing for $5,000. That's what I'm giving her, $5,000, judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
Out the back door to your right, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
It appears that this lady was just trying to get money, and that's exactly what she got.
Well,
and if her, she
takes that much.
I have 2 witnesses.
No, it's just another example of people just ripping you off.
I'm through.
Parties on Munoz Villapando, step forward, please.
Nadine Munoz is suing her former fiancé, Andy Villapando, for the money she put toward her engagement ring because he cheated on her. Andy says since Nadine bought her own ring, he's not responsible.
Order, all rise. Your Honor, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Munoz versus Villapando. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
Well, this is a new twist on an engagement ring case. Miss Munoz, according to your complaint, you went shopping with this gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
You were becoming engaged, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
According to you, you picked out a ring that you liked.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have any money or any credit.
None whatsoever.
So you put your ring on your credit card.
Exactly.
First mistake.
Exactly. Exactly.
In addition to that, you say he charged some tires on a credit card, 4 tires on a credit card of yours without your permission. To make a long story short, you're here, so that means you're no longer engaged.
Exactly. We are no longer engaged. We're no longer in speaking terms whatsoever.
And so tell me what you want from him.
I want him to pay half of the engagement ring that he gave me, that we both went together to go get. I have the appraisal. I also have the appraisal on the ring.
I'm not interested in the appraisal.
Okay.
I'm interested in the bill of sale.
Okay.
Where is it?
I have the bill of sale.
Can I have it, please? Okay. 26/27/94.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how long did this love affair last after the ring was bought?
Not long.
How long?
Till May 31st.
Well, when was the ring purchased?
February 23rd.
So.
But I had no. I'm sorry, Your Honor, but I didn't walk out of the relationship. He did. He walked out.
I assume you weren't getting along?
It wasn't going anywhere, and so, but I tried to work it out. He didn't want to, so therefore he walked out.
Well, that's probably a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes, but he left me with the bill, and I thought that because of his promise that he made that he was going to pay for part of the ring, I expected that in return.
Now I'm going to ask you this question. Why didn't you take the ring back to the jeweler?
I did. They would not give me my money back. They asked for credit, and I said, okay, fine. I then called Mr. Villapando and asked him, look, I don't want you to be without anything, and I don't want to be without anything. Therefore, you get $1,500 worth of the ring, and I'll get $1,500 worth. And I did call him on that, because I no longer want the ring. I told Mr. Villapando
So why
that I
didn't you
want
sell it?
I tried. You know how hard it is to sell a ring? I've tried for the months that went by. I've tried to sell that ring, and I can't.
Okay. Now, sir, you acknowledge, let's get rid of the tire question.
Okay.
Okay? Because I don't think that you deny that you signed her name and that you bought the tires, correct?
On the credit card for the tires, correct.
All right. And the tires were $330?
Correct.
Did you pay her back?
I paid her $315, so I owe her $15.
No,
Let me see.
My first payment was made cash, and I got 2 check duplicates. If you need to subpoena my bank records.
I don't subpoena anything, sir.
Okay.
I'm not your lawyer. I'm the judge.
Your Honor, on those checks that he gave me, that was part of the rent and the electric bills that he left me stuck with because he did not pay for anything. Everything is under my name in that apartment because Mr. Villapando, again, has no credit whatsoever. He claimed bankruptcy in the beginning of January.
Did you leave her with any bills when you
No,
left?
ma'am. I used to bring my checks, and she's the one that took care of the finances.
That's not true. That's not true. We did both of our finances together. We did both of them together. He couldn't write the check on the apartment because of the fact that it was not leased under his name.
Okay. Now, sir, do you have any payments that you made to her in June of '97?
The only payments I made to her, ma'am, are those 2 and the one cash payment I made before those 2.
All right, so now I understand this. Would you give this back?
Sure.
Tires. You owe her $330. Now, let's get to the ring. Tell me about the ring, because your story was an interesting one, sir.
Well, on the ring, we had an agreement, yes, that she was going to allow me to charge a ring so I can get her because of my credit pass from a divorce that pretty much ruined my credit. Anyways, I went out and I found a ring that I wanted to get her, and I took her to the store, and she pretty much made me feel about this little because the ring wasn't nice enough, big enough, and gaudy enough, and she specifically told me it had to be bigger than my ex-wife's. And I believe the ring was almost 2 carats as it was, and my ex-wife was only like 1 carat.
Your Honor.
So,
shh. Sir, listen to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Very nice ring. It's not 2 carats.
Correct.
This is not 2 carats.
Correct.
Okay. So, go ahead. So
And
you took her to the store, and you found a ring that you liked.
I found a ring. As a matter of fact, they were even having a big sale, so it was like a real good deal, everything. And she did not want it. It wasn't what she wanted and stuff like that. And to me, I felt like, you know, I'm buying it as a gift. You should appreciate what I'm getting you. And that's
So what happened? So you were at the store, and
So
she
we're at
doesn't like the ring.
She didn't like it, and so we didn't get a ring that day. And she decided she wanted to get a ring that she would like.
But you went with her again to find a ring that she liked.
Correct.
Okay.
And when she finally discovered the ring that she wanted, she asked me what I thought of it, and I told her it's up to her. And that's where it went, and she bought it and signed for it.
But you also promised that you were going to pay for half of it, or actually pay for the gift because it was a gift coming from you, considering the fact that you wanted to get engaged, Andy. You did.
My agreement, I'm sorry.
Your agreement was what?
My agreement was that I was going to pay for the ring that I was going to get her, not something that she didn't approve or like and wanted.
No, that doesn't make sense, my friend. That doesn't make sense, my friend. Now it makes sense to you. Now it's a good story. Now I can understand that you went and found a ring, a little too small, not exactly what she wanted. She said she'd like something else. You went shopping with her again because I assume at that point you were still in love and you were planning on getting married, and at that point I assume you wanted her to be happy with the ring. That's why you went with her again. Doesn't look like anybody drags you any place where you don't want to go. And I assume that if the relationship had progressed and you married, that you would have made payments on this engagement ring that you gave her.
It probably would have came out of a joint checking account, yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I can't pay a $3,000 ring on my income, and I know he probably couldn't do it either, but it was something that he promised to pay, and it was a gift from him.
And later today,
I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took him to a drug dealer to pay off the debt.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 27-year-old Nadine Munoz claims her former fiancé, 27-year-old Andy Villapando, cheated on her. So she's suing to recover the money she put toward her own engagement ring.
So what you have is a very interesting scenario, Miss Munoz. The ring should go back to him because it is an engagement ring.
Okay, I don't mind him having the ring as long as he pays the account.
Now, when you made this deal with him, was he supposed to pay for the whole ring?
He was supposed to, he made a verbal promise that he was going to pay for the whole ring. But when I brought him to court, I was being very noble by paying half.
Okay. Well, this was an engagement ring. Women don't pay for their own engagement rings unless they're crazy. She doesn't sound to me like she's crazy. And my sense is that at least at the time that she purchased this ring on her credit, it was something that you intended to pay for because it was an engagement ring. That's what happens. A man buys a woman an engagement ring. The fact that she didn't like the first ring, sir, that's not an excuse. That's just a good story that you made up, that you were willing to pay for the first one but not the second one, because that's pretty much what you're telling me. And if you weren't willing to pay for the second one, then you wouldn't have and shouldn't have gone shopping with her for a second one. You understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now, this whole ring was $2,627.94. And, sir, I don't think you paid her for the tires at all. So, Mr. Munoz, you just bought yourself a beautiful engagement ring and 4 new tires for the total price of $2,957.94. Judgment for the plaintiff in that amount. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll be back to you ready.
I wanted friendship afterwards, and I stated it strongly with him that I wanted friendship, but I didn't want to be lied to like he lied to me.
I'm sorry this all happened.
No problem.
And now the next case.
Party's on. Golda versus Greer. Step forward, please.
37-year-old Laura Golder is suing her best friend of 15 years, 31-year-old Liza Greer, claiming she stole 2 rings to pay off a drug dealer.
Ms. Greer, I'm going to start with you. Because, quite frankly, I don't think that the facts in this case are really in dispute. You two ladies were friends for a very long time.
15 years.
And, Ms. Greer, you acknowledge that there was a period of time when you had a severe drug problem, correct?
Yes, and alcohol.
And you were indebted to a drug dealer for some money.
Correct.
How much money did you owe him?
Well, at the time, I owed him about $375, give or take a few.
And you were pretty strung out.
Yes.
She was your dear friend.
Yes.
So you stole 2 rings from her.
Yes, I did.
And you gave one of the rings to the dealer.
Actually, I gave both of the rings to the dealer for collateral, and I was hoping to get him money because he was threatening my life, and he was a very dangerous man, and I was very frightened. And I was sober at the time, but that evening I relapsed from the stress, and I drank. And when I went over to my girlfriend's house where she was, we were together and consoling me, that evening I did something completely out of the ordinary, something I'm very upset about, I'm very remorseful for. I lost my best friend. I stole 2 rings from her, knowing what I was doing, and I took them to a drug dealer to pay off the debt. And when I tried to get them back, he wouldn't give them to me. And the next day I turned myself into the police, and I told them what happened and what I did.
When did you find the rings missing?
The morning that she left my apartment.
How'd you feel?
Extremely upset.
Did you try to contact her?
I contacted her mother and her sister and told them what happened, and they said call the police.
You got one of the rings back?
Yes.
The other one you did not?
Yes, correct.
What did he do, sell it or dispose of it in some way?
We don't know. He's saying he's innocent, and we can't talk to him. I can't get the rings back, but I want to pay her back. I just that I don't have a lot.
How did she get the one ring back?
That's kind of on her part, and I'm not talking to her right now, so you need to ask.
The police have it as evidence.
But they're holding it, so that one you have. The only dispute in this case is to the value of the ring. How much did you pay for the ring?
$7,000. I have the receipts and all the appraisal and everything right here.
I'm not interested in the appraisal, just the receipt, how much you paid for it. You bought this ring at a very upscale store. And there were 2 pieces of fine jewelry that you bought. One was for $7,000, one is for $2,500. What were the 2 pieces that you bought?
The $7,000 was the ring, and the $2,500 was the earrings to go with it.
And you have the earrings?
Yes.
Just a lot of money to spend on a ring, but...
Did you notice it was a charge card? I like to live over my means. I like to have what I like.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It was either taking your jewelry or going out and mugging somebody or getting killed herself. Because, drug dealers are despicable pun scum.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Liza Greer admits to stealing 2 rings, but says they are worth thousands less than Laura Golder claims.
Miss Greer, I'm going to let you tell me in your own words what your defense is to this lawsuit.
Okay. Okay, I'm not saying that I don't owe her the money because I took the rings. I'm taking responsibility for it. I've done everything I can and my possible means of helping her get the ring back and going to court, turning myself in. I just feel that the designer for the ring is what I'd be paying for and not the value of the diamonds and the gold. I just feel it would be, it's just ridiculous to pay for a designer. It's not ridiculous, but it's just, $7,000 for a designer when the actual ring is only worth
Liza,
$3,000.
that's what I paid for the ring, though.
Shh. Let me tell you this. What you're suggesting is as follows. If somebody steals a Renoir, you know what that is?
Yes.
And says, well, I'm prepared to pay for the canvas, and for the paint that was used. But I'm not prepared to pay $5 million for this painting. I mean, because after all this painting is a canvas and some paint. I don't have to pay for the designer Renoir, after all. She went to a store that is a high-end store. I'm not even going to mention the store.
Shall I?
No. But I want to tell you something. Anybody that buys a piece of jewelry in this high-end store, what I'm telling you is you're entitled to do with your money whatever you want to do with it. But I saw a picture of the ring. It's a nice little ring. Is all
Really
of it put
nice
together
ring.
worth $7,000? Who knows? But that's what she paid for it. And you stole it. And she doesn't have it back. And she's entitled to be made whole. Because whatever it is, she's out $7,000 and she doesn't have her ring because of you.
I know.
So, I mean, the limit of my jurisdiction is $5,000. She understood that when she came to this court, right?
Yes.
You've been in treatment?
Yes, I've been sober ever since.
How long?
It's 2.5 months now.
It's not a long time.
No, but it's still longer than I had 2.5 months ago.
I know.
And I'm also on Prozac, and I've been with a psychiatrist, and it was a very sobering experience. And I'm pregnant, so it's devastating to me what I've done. And I lost my best friend.
Doesn't sound as if this was a great year for you. Next year will be better.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Golder.
Yes.
She hasn't had a good time. She brought it about by herself. She knows that. I have a feeling that she understands that. You've been a friend for a long time. I'm going to give you your $5,000. I absolutely believe that you are entitled to that. I think Miss Greer believes that you're entitled to that, too. She feels terrible. I am quite sure that when you woke up in the morning and found your jewelry missing and realized who took your jewelry, you felt devastated.
That she would do something like that to me.
Right. She was really, at that point, I honestly believe, pushed to the wall, and she didn't know what to do. It was either taking your jewelry or going out and mugging somebody or getting killed herself, because, you know, drug dealers can be, not can be, are despicable pun scum. And they can be deadly despicable pun scum. So she was afraid. That doesn't excuse her. But if she's sober, and I believe that she is because she's been very honest with me otherwise, she probably could use all the support she can get. Well, Miss Greer, you have a responsibility now that is far beyond a responsibility to yourself.
I know.
And if you ever think of relapsing, I suggest that you take yourself a visit to a
Rehab.
local hospital.
Right.
And go into the neonatal intensive care unit and see what a baby looks like when they're born with heroin or cocaine withdrawal.
Right.
I guarantee you that that will be a more sobering experience than the one you had here. Got it?
bet.
All right. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff
Thank
in the
you.
amount of $5,000.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
Laura.
Parties are excused. You can step out. I'll be back to you, right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I could go to jail. You know, I mean, right now, you know, I could go to jail. You know, I just don't, I never thought I was that kind of a person. The one thing that I think that Judge Judy gave me back was my friend. You know, I mean, because you know, she wasn't even speaking to me before. You know, to me, the value of her friendship is worth more than the money itself. And I did something wrong, and you know, this is a lesson that had to be learned.
I always forgive her. I always forgive her. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Laura.
I know.
Thank you very much for your time. Best of luck.
Thank you, Judge Judy.
Parties on Barry versus Circadian. Step forward, please.
29-year-old health food clerk Jennifer Berry wants former boyfriend Paul Sakajian, 46, to pay back a loan she made to him for a car.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Judge, this is case number 485 in the matter of Barry versus Sakajian. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Barry, you claim that the defendant owes you $3,000 for a loan that you made to him.
Yes, ma'am.
He says he paid you back. So first, would you mind telling me why you gave him $3,000?
I gave him the $3,000 to go.
It wasn't $3,000.
It was.
Want to get to you?
That's correct, actually. I loaned the defendant $2,500 for him to purchase a 1995 Honda Civic. Upon returning it to me, he agreed to pay an additional $500. So, in a sense, it would be $3,000 that he returned to me.
What was the $500 for?
It would have been to apply toward...
It was interest, Your Honor.
Yes, that's correct. It was interest.
That's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
Over how long a period was he supposed to pay you back?
It was going to be over a 3-week period.
$500 interest for 3 weeks? Are you a loan shark?
No. No, ma'am. He was planning to fix the car and then sell it and
It's not true, Jennifer.
Just a second. Would you do me a favor? You're irritating me. It's not a good idea to start off by irritating the person who's supposed to decide your case. All right, let me cut to the chase. From what I gather from what you started to tell me before you were rudely interrupted, the $500 is because he was going to buy this truck, fix it up, sell it for a profit, and you wanted a piece of the profit.
That's a part of it. He actually had a truck before that he was going to sell, and he was going to give me the proceeds from the truck that he was selling.
Well, it's all getting very complicated. All I want to know is as follows.
Okay.
Did you, in fact, take out $2,500 and give it to him?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because he was having some financial difficulties and...
Was he a friend of yours?
Yes.
Was he a boyfriend of yours?
Yes.
Was he your only boyfriend?
Yes.
Now, you did, in fact, sir, borrow this money from her.
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Why did you borrow money from the lady?
She sort of offered to sort of make, alleviate my problems by having to go to a bank and, you know, pull out the money and from a savings account to a checking account. And what I done was like, she said that you can just borrow the money because we banked at the same bank and I could pay her in due time because I need to buy some parts.
So what you're telling me is it was too much trouble for you to take the money out of your savings account.
Right.
And put it in your checking account.
I had to take a day off from work. That's why it was, Your Honor.
It's getting better all the time. All right. So you borrowed money from your girlfriend.
She actually, I didn't
just
borrow.
say yes or no. So
Yes,
you
I
borrowed
did.
money from your girlfriend.
Yes, I did.
All right. Now she says you didn't pay her back. Right?
Yes.
Did you ask him for the money back?
Many times, ma'am.
After what period of time did you two break up?
It was about the time that I started asking for the money back.
How long after the loan?
About 2 months after.
You were supposed to pay her the money back in 3 weeks, right?
Right.
But you didn't.
Not
Pay her
true.
back in 3 weeks.
I have what you call records showing that on the day that I sold my truck, she got her money.
Well, show me that. I'm really interested in that. And this case can be over very quickly. This doesn't say she got her money.
She had a pig slip collateral, Your Honor, for what do you call it, for the money that I borrowed.
Okay.
What collateral are you talking
Just
about?
1 second. This is for a 1990 Nissan.
Right.
And this is the truck that you're talking about.
Right.
So what you're saying to me is, as collateral for the loan that she made to you,
Right.
the $2,500 loan,
Right.
you gave her the pink slip for this truck.
Right, ma'am.
And what you're saying to me is, you sold this truck to this man,
Right.
and you couldn't have sold it without the pink slip.
Right.
So she had to give you the pink slip back.
Right. They were
That's a
all of
lie,
us-
ma'am.
Just a second.
All the parties were there that Sunday when the guy came to pick up the truck.
Were you ever there on a
No,
Sunday?
I was not there on Sunday. I don't know what man he is, Mr. Sakadjian is referring to.
She didn't get a chance to meet him. He was outside, and what happened was like, she was inside the house. I had to get the, what do you call, the paperwork in order for me to, what do you call, do the transaction, so I can get the money. So that's when, you know, he wanted to get his pink slip so he can render the money to me. So I took the pink slip outside, and I just came right back inside the house, gave her the money. That was
Did you
it.
have the pink slip for his truck?
I never received any pink slip. Nope.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. Did this man ever see the plaintiff? Were
No.
they ever in the same place at the same time?
The only thing was there was just between here and there. She was in my room, and the gentleman was outside.
He wasn't like
No.
Superman. He couldn't see through the kryptonite, right?
No.
Sir,
Yes.
I don't believe you. I think you're full of it.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She's angry at me because I told her that I don't want to see her no more. That's all it's about. That's all. It's not all about the money.
I hate to say this to you, sir. Look at you and look at her.
And later today,
I've helped her out, Your Honor.
How?
She's asked me to buy diapers.
Diapers?
I've babysat for her.
Babysat?
I've did whatever I could for her.
No,
regarding
no.
my
No.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Berry wants her ex-boyfriend, auto body shop manager Paul Sakadjian, to repay the money she gave him for a car.
Now, there's some reason why you didn't give her back this money, because you didn't give her back this money.
She got her money.
Oh, no, she didn't. Why do you think she's here? Let me ask you a question, sir. Why do you think she's here if she got back her money?
She's angry at me because I told her that I don't want to see her no more. That's all it's about. That's all. It's not all about the money.
I hate to say this to you, sir. Look at you and look at her. Why do you think she would be angry if you said you didn't want to see her anymore?
I can't read her mind, Your Honor.
I believe you when you say you didn't get your money back. I am not giving you the $500 interest. It's excessive. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
But I am giving you $2,500. I don't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back door to your right, please.
Something like this has really made things difficult for me to be with him.
Just usually when I have a relationship with somebody, I don't like to have signed documents, you know, and I feel pretty bad.
And now the next case.
Parties on Brown versus Bros. Step forward, please.
17-year-old Tyler Brown says his ex-fiancée, 18-year-old Mary Brose, should return her engagement ring and pay attorney fees he spent to get visitation for their 18-month-old baby.
What's your first name?
Tyler.
Tyler. This is your father?
Yes, this is my father.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Step up here, please. Tyler, you are 17?
Yes.
Miss Brose, you are 18?
Yes, I am.
Is this your mom?
Yes, my
Would
mom.
you step up here, please? There are two things at issue in this case. One is the return of an engagement ring, and the second involves legal fees that the plaintiff says that he was forced to incur when you tried to put his baby up for adoption. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, when she tried to put our baby up for adoption, Your Honor, yes.
That's what I said.
Okay.
All right. So how old were you two when you got engaged?
15.
Wonderful. Did your parents approve of that?
No.
Yes, they did, Your Honor. Her parents did approve of it. As a matter of fact, her mom was the one who was encouraging us to get married. She thought it would be in our best interest because Mary was pregnant, and our intentions were to stay together.
When you were 15?
Yes.
So tell me about this engagement ring. Where is it?
I lost it.
That's baloney. You don't lose an engagement ring. When did you give her the ring? After she told you she was pregnant?
Yes, it was right just about a few weeks after she was pregnant, Your Honor.
You have a bill for it?
Yes, I have a receipt.
Were you living together at any time?
We've lived together on and off, Your Honor. She lived with my mom and dad because her mom and dad didn't, at the time, want anything to do with her. She divorced her parents. She got legally emancipated. And there's so much tension between both of the families.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
You bought her engagement ring at Walmart for $239?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, these legal fees, tell me about them.
Okay. Mary decided before, not very long before she was due to deliver Tyler Jr., our son, she decided that she doesn't want to be a mom. She decides that she wants to give the baby up for adoption, that she's not ready for this at the time. So my mother went and we had got a loan that we got to take out to fight for custody of TJ. Now, a day before Mary goes into labor, she calls me and said that her dad had beat her up or something and that she wants to come back. So I said, okay, because, you know, in my mind, I didn't know what to do. We had already made all these arrangements and stuff. I said, okay. That night, Mary went into labor, and TJ was born. I was at the hospital with her and stayed with her the whole time while she was in the hospital and didn't leave until she left. At that time, she come back with us and lived with my mom and dad at that time. Now, so what I have is the attorney fees that we had borrowed was $1,500, but we no longer needed those for attorney fees because I didn't need the attorney anymore. So me and Mary kept the money to buy stuff that we needed for TJ and stuff when he was first born, like, you know.
Just a second. How much did you pay the lawyer? Not the loan. How much did you actually pay the lawyer?
I never actually retained him because it happened within just a few days.
Did you pay a lawyer any other money?
Yes, me and Mary, after TJ was born, like I said, she come back and lived with my mom and dad. So her parents filed a petition in court for grandparent visitation rights, and me and Mary didn't like the idea of it because they weren't involved in our...
Mary and I.
Mary and I, I'm sorry, Your Honor. She didn't like the idea of her parents wanting to, boom, become involved just out of nowhere. So we went and retained an attorney. We went and got another loan to retain the attorney, and he filed a response to their petition.
So what happened with the lawsuit over grandparent visitation?
Well, what happened is we never got served our papers or whatever to go to court, and the judge had granted them their petition for the grandparent visitation by default because me and Mary were never notified.
Mary
and I, I'm sorry. Mary and I were never notified of the hearing, and we never went.
So did your attorney show up?
No, he never showed up.
So how much did you pay this attorney that didn't show up?
Well, I have paid him $525 was what we paid him.
Now this $525 was something that you both were, on a suit that you both decided to fight. Is that right?
That's why I'm asking for half, yes.
Okay. You're not living together anymore. You have a baby. The baby is now a year and a half old?
Yeah, almost 2 years old.
Mm-hmm. And you were 15 when the baby was born, or 16?
I was 15.
You must have been pleased as punch.
It was very devastating.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I just took the advice of my attorneys, Your Honor. That's all I did.
Morality has nothing to do with what your attorney tells you.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tyler Brown wants his ex-fiancée, Mary Brose, to return the engagement ring and pay him attorney fees he spent to get visitation of their 18-month-old baby. She says she lost the ring, and they both shared the attorney fees.
Let's talk about this engagement ring. Where is it?
I seriously don't know. I was swimming one day, and because me and my mom and dad go, my mom and I and my dad go to the lake, and we have a boat and everything, and we went boating one day, and I water ski, and it fell off, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Now tell me about these legal fees. Did you and this young man decide to fight your parents' request to visit with the baby?
Yeah, we did.
Why?
I don't know. I really don't know anymore.
You don't feel that way anymore?
No, of course not. I don't. I know I made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. I know that. And I just panicked, basically. I mean, I'm sure if you had a kid at 15, you'd do, panic and stuff. It just scared me a lot.
More than panic?
Yeah, it scared me.
Are you living with your mom and dad now?
No, I live on my own right now.
How do you support yourself?
I work full-time.
Who takes care of the baby?
Actually, Tyler watches him now because we had got a court date, and Tyler was supposed to pay, I don't know how much money it was, and the judge said that Tyler could watch, because he's not working, and Tyler said that he would watch TJ while I worked.
Why aren't you working?
I'm working, Your Honor.
So who's watching the baby?
I watch the baby during the day, and then usually Mary gets off of work at about 5, and then when I go to work at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, my mom just watches him from like 3 to 5 until Mary gets home. The judge thought that that would be in our best interest.
I think that's a very smart decision.
Your Honor, can I speak?
Sure.
In regards to the babysitting incident, the issue, we had just gone to court, and he was supposed to pay child support. She has not seen a penny of it.
Well, the truth is, until he's of age, which is 18, under the laws in every jurisdiction, he's really not responsible for child support. He was responsible enough to make a baby, but paying for it is an entirely different thing. That's America. Now, if I had my way, his father would be contributing some of the support, just as you probably are contributing some of the support to make things work in your daughter's house, take care of this baby. But that's not the way the law is now. That's unfortunate. If I were queen, I would change that. In any event, so we have two issues, and I'm going to rule on those two issues. An engagement ring is given as part of a contract to marry. However, the law is that unless you are of age, you cannot enter into a contract. So we're sort of in a twilight zone here. You gave her this ring as part of a contract, which you couldn't make. So this Walmart ring, wherever it is gone. Now, I do think that there is some merit, sir, in your argument that you should get half of these attorney's fees, half of the $525, because from what the defendant tells me, she was also fighting the lawsuit that involved her parents having visitation with their grandchild.
$260, $250.
Oh, Bert, thank you very much. I don't know what I'd do without you. My mathematician to my immediate left tells me that half of 525 is 260, 250. That's what you have to give him. Understand?
Can I add something
Yeah.
here, too?
Oh, he wants to add.
Well, Your Honor, they had mentioned me not paying their child support. We just went to court 2 weeks ago, and I've just got the order.
Can I say something? Just a minute.
And they're just now starting to garnish my wages. My attorneys had advised me to wait until we get the order. I've just got the order in the mail last week. My support will be starting to be garnished out of my wages this week.
Mr. Brown, you see, when you keep talking, you always say one thing too much. Because I've been nice to you so far.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You needed an order to start paying child support? Your child's almost 2 years old?
No, but...
Just a second. You needed an order? What'd you think your baby was going to eat?
I've helped her out, Your Honor.
How?
She's asked me to buy diapers.
Diapers?
I've babysat for her.
Babysat?
I've did whatever I could for her regarding my circumstances.
No. Circumstances. If you're old enough to make a baby, you're old enough to be able to support a baby. And you don't wait until you get a court order to do that, sir, if you are a responsible person. I know that you like to think that you are a responsible person.
Well, I offered to give her money, like, for Christmas. She did not want my money for Christmas.
What's Christmas? I'm talking about every week, like you get paid, sir, at your job.
I just took the advice of my attorneys, Your Honor. That's all I did.
Listen to me. Morality has nothing to do with what your attorney tells you. If you made a baby, morally you are responsible for contributing to that child's support. And it seems to me, with your mouth, you can say to your lawyer, look, I understand your advice, but the right thing for me to do is to pay child support, is to pay her even voluntarily until a court gives me an order, and I want to do that because it's the right thing to do. Does that have a ring of truth to it?
Yes, it does.
Good! $262.50 for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Back door to your right.
And on the next Judge Judy.
She's perjured herself in court before. She's a liar. She's a proven liar.
Like
you know,
you're
it's
not?
no big deal. I mean, I take care of myself. I think she's got a lot to learn in life.
Oh,
I'm
what?
so much better off without her.
Like, I'm not?
I'm very happy now.
So am I.
Party's on Garay versus Romaniac. Step forward, please.
Jean Garay had an 11-month romantic relationship with Canadian John Romaniak. But when they split, she says he still owed her thousands of dollars.
Order, all rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please, all rise. Sir, quiet, please. Thank you. Judge, this is case number 263 on the calendar in the matter of Garay versus Romaniak. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated.
Don't look so unhappy. It's only money. Right?
That's right.
It's only money. Well, you had an unusual arrangement with the defendant, according to your complaint, and he seems to acknowledge this was your arrangement. You were dating, you became romantically involved, decided to live together. You're from the United States?
Yes.
And you're from?
Canada.
And this was the arrangement that you made, from my understanding, that while you were in the United States, where you were planning to spend half your time, you would pay. And while you were in Canada,
I would pay.
you would pay. So you spent 6 months in the States, and you paid.
That's right.
All the expenses.
Yes.
And then you moved to Canada, and you ran out of money.
I paid. I'll explain that a little later.
Okay. So tell me, how did you enter into this rather unique arrangement with funds?
Well, it was just that we were going together last year, and then in November, we got engaged in September. In November, he left, and we went together for a while, and then in April, we got back together again. And in the middle of April, he asked me, would I like to go to Canada to live with him? And, or to stay up there in Canada for the summer months, and then come back, because I worked in Palm Springs. And I said, yes. I said, but you know, how are we going to, or we worked out how we were going to pay for the money and that. And I said, well, while we're here, while we're in the United States, I will pay for everything here. So I paid for his payments on his house insurance, his electric, his gas bills, and everything.
So you were living in his house?
No, I have my own house. We both have a home in Palm Springs.
So that you were paying for your house and you were paying for his house while he was here?
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay.
So then we left, and we went to Canada. We arrived in Canada. We first went to see his daughter, and then we went to a little town called Penticton. So we started looking around and that, and we saw this one house that we thought. And we said, well, you know, God, I wish we could get it. And I said, well, look, I will put the money down, the $3,000 down. You pay the payments on it. So that was the arrangements. And then we moved in the house on June the 1st.
This house that you purchased?
The one we purchased in Penticton, Canada. Okay. And we lived in that house. The middle of July, he left me and went to see his daughter for 4 days.
Did he tell you he was leaving?
Yes, he told me the day before that he was leaving the next morning.
Had you had an argument? Had you not been
We
getting
had been
along?
bickering and arguing, and it was just like he had his children there, and I was tired and everything else. But he left and went and lived with his daughter for 4 days. When he came back, he says, that's it. The house is going on the market. He had been to the real estate office already. When he came back, I was at the neighbors. I was so upset and everything else that he had left. So I came home. I didn't know what to do. I just said, I can't live like this. The tension was so bad and everything else. So I left, and I came down back to Palm Springs. My car was in bad condition. He had supposed to fix the radiator. He didn't. I had to keep putting water in it. My air conditioning wasn't working. I had 2 blowout tires.
It was
and
a terrible
emotionally,
experience.
it was a horrible thing.
It was a horror.
Go ahead. When I got back, I had to go to the doctors. My friends had to take me to the doctors. My nerves were so bad, and I've been on nerve pills since. All I want is, he gives me my money, I'll sign the house to him, and then I'm finished.
What money are you talking about, Ms.
$5,000. Not all the other money I've spent, the $5,000.
What's $5,000 for?
The $3,000 are for the house, the money I put down on the house, he can have the house. And also, the rest is right here, what I have paid out. On his house here, all the payments, the house, expenses that I had coming down. You know, I had to stay in a motel, gasoline,
Well, Ms.
my
Garay,
car breaking down.
all those expenses you're not going to get back. You know that. You know that.
But it still comes to $4,845.20. And this is what I have paid out, Your Honor.
Well, what you've paid out is not necessarily something that he agreed to pay you back.
And this is what he has paid out. The bottom amount is
Okay.
American money.
All right, sir, let me hear you.
Your Honor, I don't believe what she's saying.
Listen to me. Listen to me.
Last year, I took her for... Yes, ma'am.
You don't have to believe what she's saying.
Okay.
I got to believe what she's saying.
Last year, I took her for 4 months down to Canada. I paid all expenses, right? I sent her a plane ticket to Winnipeg. That's 3,000 miles away from here. And we toured the whole Western Canada. I took her through the prairies to Banff, Lake Louise, ice fields, and all over.
Who paid for that?
I paid for the whole thing for 4 months, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I promise to give you the best of myself and to ask of you no more than you can give. That's her promise to me.
And later today,
The first time and the last time I've ever met her, she tried running me and my husband off the road because she was, I guess, mad that he was going to stay with me and not her.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Splitting up after an 11-month romantic relationship, Jean Garay now claims John Romaniuk owes her thousands.
Okay, let me ask you this question. So what made you decide that this arrangement, this relationship, wasn't going to work when you went to your daughters?
Because when we got to Vancouver, Palm Springs, we had an argument because every day her man friend phoned for about 45 minutes on the phone while I was there. And I said I didn't like the idea that he phoning every day. So she got mad at me. She said, that's none of your business. So she said, leave the house. So I left. I didn't see her until middle of April.
When you were back in Canada, sir, you bought the house.
I'm coming to that, ma'am.
Get there.
Oh, then middle of April, somehow we got back together.
Shh. You're in the house that
Yes.
you just bought.
Yes.
You decide to go to your children.
Why? Because when my son came over to visit us, my granddaughter spilled a little bit of milk on a rug that we didn't have no furniture or anything like that. So she got mad and she said, your son doesn't know how to bring the children up.
So that's when you got mad.
So I got angry. So I went to my daughter's place, because my daughter's got I have 4 grandchildren, and to spend over there. When I came back, she put the sign of her own on to sell the house. House was for sale. I said, what are you doing? And then beside that, all the payments were...
So don't tell me about payments, because let me tell you what my thinking is, sir. She put down $3,000 towards the purchase price of that house. Now, you have family in Canada. Your son lives there, your grandchildren live there, and you will be going back to Canada.
Yes.
And you love this house that you originally bought.
Yes.
So it seems to me that if you are no longer a couple...
Yes.
That this house is something that shouldn't be binding you together.
No.
Right?
That's for sure.
Right.
Mr. Romaniuk, what I'm saying to you, sir, is she doesn't want to know you anymore. You don't want to know her anymore.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So you shouldn't have to be bothered with this business. She should be out of the real estate business in Canada, because but for you, she wouldn't be there.
Exactly.
Got it? So you, sir, are going to give her the $3,000 to get her out of the Canada business. You got it? And then if you sell the house for more, she will wish you good luck. And if you sell the house for less and you don't get the $3,000 back, so be it. And if you can rent the house and make a couple of bucks when you rent the house, terrific. And if you want to live there and retire there yourself, you can do that. judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I promise to give you the best of myself and to ask of you no more than you can give. I promise to accept you the way you are. I promise to respect you. I promise to love you in good times and bad times. That's her promise to me. Now I didn't care what I spent because I loved her and I enjoyed every minute with her. That's it. That's my
He
point.
loved me, but I couldn't walk down the street and look at anybody else because I was going to bed with them all.
And now the next case.
Parties on Newdecker versus Key. Step forward, please.
29-year-old hairdresser Lisa Newdecker is suing her ex-boyfriend, carpenter Christopher Key, 30, for money she loaned him before he met his current wife, Melissa.
Well, I've read your papers. There are a couple of interesting little quirks in these papers that I want to find out about. But basically, Miss Newdecker, this was your boyfriend about 5 years ago.
About 6.5 actually is when I started dating him.
And some 5 years ago, you lent him some money.
Over the course of the time we dated, yes.
How did you lend him this money?
He was short of cash and needed to get miscellaneous items, and I went with him and used my credit cards.
So it was basically credit card bills?
Yes.
And how much altogether was it that he charged at that point?
It was approximately $2,600.
And when you separated, according to these papers, he made a lot of payments.
Yes.
But that he still owes you $870.37.
Approximately, yes.
When was the last time he made a payment?
On October 4th. I received the check about October 7th.
And then he stopped making payments?
Yes.
Why?
Well, in the beginning of the breakup, there was a discrepancy when she came to me with the amount of how much was owed. I didn't remember it totaling up to $2,600, and I told her at the time that I didn't remember it being $2,600, and she insisted that it was.
So when you insist that it was and you say it wasn't, did you look over all the bills?
No,
Why?
because we were separated, it wasn't a matter of me going over and sitting down with her and going over and saying this was mine, that wasn't. She said that it was, and I had figured it to be around $1,600, and
Well,
which is a considerable difference.
So why didn't you go over there and look over the bills? That's a $1,000 discrepancy.
We weren't a couple any longer. It just
So what? You weren't a couple. It seems to me it's now more of a business transaction than anything else. You mean you just thought you'd blow it off?
No. I didn't just think I'd blow it off. It was, like I said, I didn't see it that way, and she's seen that it did.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Sometimes men do really dumb things. You always get caught because women are great snoops.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 29-year-old hairdresser Lisa Newdecker is suing her ex-boyfriend, carpenter Christopher Key, 30, for money she loaned him before he met his current wife, Melissa.
She had the papers to show you, sir, what items you purchased, I assume. Do you still have them?
Yes.
Well, take a look. 5 years later, sir, take a look.
It's a list of what all the paperwork is.
Once again, like I said, we were a couple at the time, and a lot of these items on here, if you would look them over, I don't know if she's gave you a list of this.
I have nothing.
Would be considered as, you know, when we lived together, if we went out someplace and I paid, I didn't consider it to be a loan.
What do you mean?
Like there's an item on here, half the cost of portraits that we had done together.
Just a second. You had portraits done together. And she put down half the cost.
Right.
I paid the full amount on my credit card.
Well, that sounds fair to me. Doesn't that sound fair to you? Did you go and sit for the portrait?
Well, yes, I did.
She's not asking you to pay for the whole thing, just half.
Right. I understand that.
So give me another one.
Sega game.
Sega game.
Oh, sorry, Sega game tapes.
Those yours?
Yeah. They are now. At the time, you know, like I said, we were a couple.
You're a couple. So a Sega game, yours. Go.
Well,
give me another one.
Compact discs. Did she listen to the music too? I don't know what
Just a
specific
sec.
compact discs they are. Building supplies. I don't remember that one. Building supplies.
What are
for
building
what?
supplies?
I don't remember exactly what it was for, but it was from Builder Square, and he was a subcontractor. I'm not. So
Which
I would
is
have
true. I
no
was
need.
a subcontractor, but at the same time, building supplies. Was it for something that we did? I remember the place that we lived in. There was a. We were going to put a fence around the place for the guy that we leased from. You know, I mean, there was just different items at different
just
times.
a second. Did you put a fence around the house?
No, we didn't. But the materials
Well, if you
were.
didn't, then what are you telling me the story about?
My point is this, though, Your Honor. When we lived together, the things that she bought, I didn't keep an itemized list, so I can't very well stand here and argue with her and say, well, I bought this and you bought that, so we should be even, because, like I said, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't keep receipts for different things that you buy for each other, but she did because she put them on her card. Now, I don't see, whereas, like I said, in a relationship, that you just do that as a couple.
See the things, please?
Or at least I do.
Miss Newdecker, let me look through some of these things. Men's dress clothes for grandfather's funeral.
I didn't remember that she'd bought them. Like I said, of course, I didn't remember what all was on the list.
She's got the list and she's got the bills. You need a muffler and brakes for your car at one point?
I don't remember that either, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. This has been,
Did you have
like I said,
an El
5 years ago.
Camino?
Yes, I did.
There you go. All right, now, so I am assuming for the purpose of this case that originally you owed her the $2,600 and that you made payments and she's kept very careful records of those payments and that all she claims that you owe her is $870. But what I really think you're probably angry about, sir, is that she wrote a letter to you which your wife opened. This is your wife?
Yes.
That created some problems for you?
Yeah, but that had nothing to do with the amount that I owed her. I honestly did not remember those other items, so
Okay, well,
I didn't
now-
believe that I owed them.
Well, now you do. So your wife opened this letter, and did that distress you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, step up here. Why did it distress you?
Because she said on the letter that my husband had went to see her 9.5 weeks ago, and I had no idea he was keeping in contact with her because of the first time and the last time I've ever met her, she tried running me and my husband off the road because she was, I guess, mad that he was going to stay with me and not her. We had only been dating on and off for a month.
How long are you married?
2 years now.
Mm-hmm. Everything okay?
Mm-hmm.
Fair?
Yeah.
Okay. You have any children?
Yep.
How old?
She's going to be 21 months.
And that's his baby?
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you have a seat? How come you're still going to this lady to cut your hair?
The purpose for me going to talk to her was because I owed her this money. But I did tell her that I would pay her.
And while you were there, you got your hair cut?
Yeah, I went to her place of business to see her. I don't...
Going to her place of business is one thing. Sitting down and schmoozing and having your hair cut is another thing. That's what really made your wife angry. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Did you charge him for the haircut?
Yeah, I gave him a discount, though.
Should have charged him full price.
I know that now.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Mr. Key, sometimes men do really dumb things. I don't know why they do that. They think they can get away with it. You always get caught. You know why? Because women are great snoops. Terrific. They can smell something that isn't right. Go to a barber. Meanwhile, it sounds to me, Mr. Key, that you got more trouble than the $870 that you owe this lady. It also looks to me as if you've got a very nice but very sad wife and a 21-month-old baby. So you better get your act together. You owe her $870.37. Pay her. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. There you are.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I don't know why she's being
so ignorant as to take him to court and drag us all the way over here.
It has been 5 years, and like I said, I was wrong about the amount.
Payments, and he didn't want you to find out that he had been in contact with me for
That's
the full
right,
5
because you tried
years.
running us off the road.
No, I did
yes,
not.
Yes, you did.
Let's go.
I feel kindly towards him. I'm sad to see that his wife has so much control over him. Bye-bye. Nice to meet you.
Parties on Rashad versus Hayes. Step forward, please.
19-year-old loan officer Amy Wishard says she's pregnant with her ex-boyfriend, 22-year-old mechanic Ken Hayes' baby, and he owes her money. He says he owes her nothing.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, case number 328 on the calendar in the matter of Wishard versus Hayes. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Oh, Miss Wishard. You have a problem.
Yes.
You had an on-again, off-again relationship with this gentleman.
Yes.
According to these papers, mostly off.
Yes.
But for a fleeting moment while it was on, you got yourself pregnant. Now it's off. Right? What are you laughing about? She didn't do that by herself. Right? And to add insult to injury, he owes you money.
Yes.
So, why don't you tell me what he owes you money for?
He owes me around $660. In January, we got an apartment together under the pretense that he was going to get a salary job. He had been working for his brother, and it was kind of a partnership relationship, so if they didn't get paid, they didn't get paid.
How long had you been together up until that point?
Around 2 years.
And were you living together before that?
For about 3 months prior to that, but not before that.
Had you discussed getting married?
A few times.
Did you do the talking or did he do the talking?
I guess it depended on the situation. You know, when I felt like I wanted to, I would talk to him, and usually when he would screw up, then he would talk to me about it.
What do you mean when he would screw up?
When, you know, when he had done something wrong and knew he was at fault, then he would say, oh, baby, you know, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to be with you forever. Let's get married.
He actually used the M word.
Yes, yes.
Spending the rest of my life with you, wanting to be with you together, I've heard a lot since I've been sitting here. The M word I haven't heard so much. So you took this new apartment.
Yes.
You both signed the lease.
Yes.
And what happened?
We got 2 weeks free rent because we moved in the middle of January. And then it was coming time for rent to be due at the beginning of February. He had not gotten a salary position with his brother or with any other company. And I told him that he either needed to get the rent money together or get out. And then I said, no, I don't even want to bother with that. Either you need to leave or I need to leave, and we need to settle up on the lease.
Was it the financial frustration that finally
that
got
was part of it, and just he wasn't owning up to his responsibility. I would have never moved in the larger and more expensive apartment if he had just told me, no, Amy, I'm not gonna get a salary position. I'm gonna keep working for my brother. Then at least I would have known, and it would have been up to me at that time if I wanted, you know, to move on further or drop it there. But
what kind of work do you do?
I'm a loan officer for a mortgage company.
So either he was going to leave or you were going to leave.
Right.
What happened?
And I had decided that I would leave. I went and got my things, and we agreed that we were going to come in a few days later and sign papers for him to take over responsibility of the lease. Then, prior to when we were supposed to go in and sign the papers, they called me and said he had moved all his things out, which was untrue because we had already decided that I was going to leave and he was going to take over the lease. I even told him I would pay that half for that month where he could find a roommate, and he said there were too many painful memories and he just couldn't stay there.
So $660 is half of the rent for February?
Well, we had to break the lease. So they charged us that month's rent, plus they charged us another month's rent, you know, for breaking the lease, plus 2 months utility fees. And I have all the fees that they...
So it all comes to $660?
His half.
And what else do you say he owes you for?
And then loaned him $450. Later on that year, he said he needed to pay some other kind
Well, when did this happen?
In January.
Of 97?
Yes.
So after you broke up and after everything else, you lent him more money?
Yes.
Amy.
Yeah. Well, we were on speaking terms at the time and on a friendship basis.
So what did he need this money for?
He said he needed to pay lawyer's fees or court fees for some other case he was going to.
What other case?
I think it might have been a custody battle. I'm not sure.
And you gave him the money?
Yes.
Do you have proof that you gave him the money?
I have a check that I wrote out to cash. I didn't write it to him.
Well, somebody had to cash it.
That he cashed at my bank.
Oh. Mm-hmm. And when did you find out you were pregnant?
In August.
So after you broke up in January, you were a little more than just friends.
Yeah, later on. Yes, ma'am.
But then you broke up again?
Well, before I found out I was pregnant, we were trying to work things out. And prior to me being pregnant, I had taken a trip, and I told him, he knew I was going, but I didn't call him before I left, and he was upset over that. So when I told him I was pregnant, he said that he wasn't the father and that he didn't take any responsibility.
Well, you'll be able to establish that if you have to after
Right.
the baby's
Well,
born.
later on he said he was, but...
In any event, later on,
Right.
you'll be able to do blood tests, and there won't be any issue with regard to that, if that's what you want.
Right.
Okay. I'm ready.
Prior to signing the new lease, we were going through some problems, and I asked Amy, I kept asking over and over, if she's not comfortable with it, let's don't sign this new lease. She kept saying that she was, so therefore we went and signed the new lease.
What do you mean? That's all very soft.
What?
You were going through some problems. You mean emotional problems? You were fighting? What do you mean?
She wasn't comfortable where we were at. I don't think she was comfortable with me. Just things of that nature. And I kept asking her, you know, before we make this next move, I want you to be comfortable. And she kept assuring me that she was. So we made this next move. And before I moved out, she moved out. In the same day, or it may have been the next day, I'm not sure, she moved back in. So then, the next day, we had this discussion where more or less she kicked me out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Why would I just give him $450? He said, yes, I will pay you back.
I don't even remember getting the money.
And later today.
And I told her that she needed to bug off. That's just my words. Because that was my son. I carried him 9 months, and she had nothing to say.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Wishard claims Ken Hayes owes her for a loan and a broken lease. Ken says he doesn't owe the soon-to-be mother of his child anything.
Let's make it easy. If a relationship doesn't work out, this doesn't look like the kind of lady, and you've known her a long time, who conned you into going into another apartment in order to throw you out so that 2 weeks later she'd have to move out. That doesn't make sense. She's an intelligent woman, right?
Yes, she is.
So what she was hoping for was that your relationship would work. And it seems to me, from what you told me, sir, that you both have tried to make it work even after that February when you were no longer together, right?
Right.
So she shouldn't have to bear the full financial responsibility for the apartment and for the lease and breaking the lease, right? That sounds fair, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Good. Now let's talk about this $450, this check for cash for $450. What'd you need the money for?
As looking back on it, Your Honor, we're in a relationship, and in a relationship, you exchange gifts, money, things of that nature. I never looked at it as being a loan. I have to pay it back.
What did you need the money for, sir, is my question.
I don't recall. I don't even remember getting the money.
Were you involved in some sort of litigation in April?
No.
Do you have a child?
Yes.
How old is your child?
She's 5 years old.
Had you been to court with the child's mother?
No.
Around April?
No.
Were you having problems with visitation?
No.
Well then, What did you need the money for, sir?
I don't recall. I don't even remember getting the money.
Your Honor, he came to my place of work. I was working at a bank at the time. Amy, I need to borrow $450. I promise you I'll pay you this back in the next couple days. I said, Ken, are you sure that's a lot of money? I can't just be throwing around $450. Why would I just give him $450? He said, yes, I will pay you back. And when I spoke to him about the incident with the rent, I said, and you owe me $450, and he said, I haven't paid you back for that yet? Now, why would he say that if it was a gift? He knew it was a loan.
When is your baby due?
May.
Are you still working with your brother?
Yes.
You finally making a living?
Yeah. Thank you.
When this baby comes, and I assume when you are satisfied beyond any shadow of a doubt that this baby is yours, you're going to pay support for the baby?
Yes.
Great. We're going to start now by filling back up her little nest egg for money that you owe her. That's $660 and $450 that she loaned to you in April of 1997. Grand total is $1,110. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now, the next case.
All parties on Davidson versus Davidson. Step forward, please.
Banker Bobby Davison is suing her ex-husband, Louis Davison, for half of their son's funeral costs.
You folks have been divorced for a long time. How many years?
30, approximately.
And sadly, your son was killed in an automobile accident when he was in his 30s.
Yes.
How old was he? 30?
36.
And according to your complaint, Ms. Davison, your former husband agreed to pay for half of your son's funeral expenses.
That's correct.
And then he reneged on that agreement, and according to him, gave you $1,000 towards the expenses. Is that right?
Yes.
He has a defense that is interesting. So why don't you tell me about the arrangements that you started to make for your son and how your former husband was involved?
Well, at the time that I received word that my son had passed, and we went to the funeral home to make the arrangements for the burial, it was agreed on that we would go 50-50 on the funeral expenses.
Well, according to these papers, let me stop you for a moment.
Sure.
You agreed in the funeral director's office that each of you would be responsible for half the bill. But then, according to these papers, the funeral director said that since your son was married, you had no right legally to make the arrangements because even though you were his parents, you were not his next of kin. His wife had to approve the agreement. Is that right? There was another meeting with the funeral director.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
And who was present at that meeting?
His wife, my ex's wife.
That's you?
Yes, ma'am. And myself.
You weren't there?
No, I was not.
Why weren't you there?
I was working.
Okay, so you sent your wife
So
and
I
your
sent
step.
my wife to represent me.
Fine. And what happened at that meeting?
Well, at that meeting is when the Mrs. Davison, Sue Davison, and Tammy and I went in to review the casket that we had picked out. Then Sue Davison said that we should change it to a wooden box, that her father was buried in a pine box, and why couldn't we bury it? And I told her that she needed to bug off. That's just my words. Because that was my son, I carried him 9 months, and she had nothing to say or do with my funeral arrangements that was being made. Because Tammy financially was not able to take care of the expensive, and it was not between my ex and myself.
So what happened?
So after a few choice words with Mrs. Davison, Sue Davison, she said that she would give Tammy $1,000, and Tammy was to do with that whatever she wanted to do with it. And so Tammy, in terms, handed it over to the mortician, and that was applied to the funeral expenses.
Is that pretty much the story, sir?
So far, yes.
And how much were the expenses in total?
I don't have exact total, but Mr. Davison's share would be $2359.67.
Now, does that include the $1,000 that he gave you?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Your Honor.
So you've given him credit for that.
Yes,
so that
sir.
the funeral was
approximately $6,500,
$6,600.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Hopefully, when people come to court, they can reach some sort of resolution, even without somebody banging them over their heads.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Bobby Davison wants her ex-husband, Louis Davison, to pay his share of their son's funeral costs. Louis says Bobby changed the arrangements at the last minute, making the funeral too expensive.
Okay, Mr. Davison. Initially, you agreed to share the expenses with your former wife. And now you said no. Tell me why, sir.
Okay, originally, if I could approach you and show you this, or somebody could show you this, that when we were talking to the mortician, or the gentleman who was making the arrangements, that when he found out that Tammy was still legally married to my son, that everything that we had done to that point was null and void.
Okay, may I see the paper that you have, sir?
Okay, and this is the original one that we had signed up to that point where he found out.
I'd like to see it, please.
I'll just take that now. That was the original form that we had signed.
Okay, so the total of what you originally agreed to was $36.31. Is that correct?
At that point, yes.
Now, Ms. Davison, the original agreement that your husband said, I will pay for half, was for $3,631. At your second meeting, you chose to spend $6,500, according to you.
Well, at the time, all the funeral expenses were supposed to be 50-50.
That's not what I'm asking you.
I know you're not, but that does not include an open and closing of the grave, which I had to go out and pay myself.
How much was it to open and close the grave?
$1,024.
Now, Mr. Davison, did you understand, sir, that there would be an additional cost to open and close the grave?
At that time, no, I did not.
Well, I'm going to ask you an interesting question, because this is more of a moral question than a legal one. If you had known, I don't want you to try to remove yourself from where you are right now, but if you had known at the time that to open and close the grave was going to cost $1,025, would you have agreed to pay for half of that?
I would agree to help, yes.
Okay. That still, Miss Davidson, brings the total to $4,600, not $6,500. He agreed to pay $36.31. So I believe that an argument can be made that you obligated yourself for the amount of $3,600. You only paid half of $3,600 or $1,800, and you only gave her $1,000, which means minimally you owe her $800 for the expenses of the funeral. And the only thing that I want to ask you, Mr. Davison, the original amount that you agreed to contribute did not include the opening and closing of the grave. It was only for the funeral director. And I'm asking you if today you are prepared to contribute something towards the opening and closing of the grave.
Okay, if the circumstances at the time, if, right now, to answer your question,
You'll feel better if you say yes.
Well, there's no question I'd feel better, but that was not the problem.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Hopefully, when people come to court, they can reach some sort of resolution, even without somebody banging them over their heads. I think that morally, if not legally, you should be responsible for seeing to it that your son received an appropriate burial. And certainly that includes opening and closing the grave. That's what the cost was.
Yeah.
Okay? What you originally agreed to, I am going to portion in half. And I'm also going to portion half of the cost of internment to you because you've consented to do that, which I think is the right thing. You'll sleep better, Mr. Davison.
I haven't been properly sleeping.
You'll sleep better. So, Ms. Davison, I'm giving you a judgment in the amount of $1,327. Thank you. That's all.
If I excuse, you may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
My husband's ex-wife, Bobby Davison, omitted my name and my 4 children, whom my husband and I have raised for 24 years, out of the obituary. We weren't included at all. Like 24 years didn't matter.
It was just an oversight if it was left out.
I hope I never see her again in my life.
Feelings is mutual.